Bayang magiliw, pwelas ng silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisihin, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bukaw. Malilang ang tula at awit sa palayong minamahal, ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nanginginig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walang ipagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Ang inihaya na pag may mamahapi, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. Yupin aming mahal, pamantas ang hirap. Ang tinig namin, sana'y inyong dinggin. Malayong lupain, amin mang marating, di magbabago ang damdamin. Di magbabago ang damdamin. Luntian at pula, sagisag magpakailanman. Ating pagdiwang, bulwagan ng dagat. Umayo titanghal, diting at tapang, mamuhay ang pag-asa ng bayan. Mabuhay ang pag-asa ng bayan.
Twenty 2025-2026. I'm Liza Mama.
And I'm Iko Urbano, and we are your hosts for this evening.
The special elections will be held to fill up the vacancies for the following positions: 1. BGC Evening Batch Representative, 2. First Year Batch Representatives, 1 Second Year Batch Representative, 1 Third Year Batch Representative, 1 Fourth Year Batch Representative, and a Public Relations Officer.
So before we begin, let me explain the convocation rules. So for this convocation, the candidates will be given 1 minute and 30 seconds each to present their opening spiels. So afterwards, there will be a question and answer portion specific to the candidates based on the questions submitted online, which they can answer for 1 minute. And in the end, each candidate will be given 1 minute each for their closing spiels.
To To everyone here, please take note that you may still submit your questions in the drop box by the registration booth until after the online question and answer round.
Yes, so please make sure to send in your questions if you have any. Now, to officially open the program, let's hear a few opening remarks from the esteemed head of the UP College of Law, Dean Gwen De Vera.
Okay, so pleasant evening to everyone, to the officers of the Elecom. No, Elecom na pala yung tawag sa kanya ngayon. Yan. So once upon a time, I was a member, but we used to call it the Electoral and Judicial Tribunal, parang the EJT. Hindi siya Elecom. Yan. Okay. Candidates and of course, our student leaders. It's an honor to be part of the convocation. I understand that the convocation is part of the special elections for the vacancies of the Law Student Government Central Board. I wish to share with you that I grow prouder each day, and it's not been that long since the selection process was concluded, but I grow prouder each day to be your dean, seeing how student engagement has been very active in the last few weeks, no? From the deanship selection to the mobilization last Sunday. So, very, very proud of our student body in terms of their engagement. And I credit that in no small measure to the leadership that you now have, the leadership that you have elected. The ELECOM undoubtedly has a crucial role to play. Its work is not limited to overseeing an electoral process. It is charged with the task of promoting democratic participation among our students. No? So having been once part of the EJT, I know how difficult that is. No? So noong araw, many, many years ago, on election day, members of the EJT will be posted around the campus to try to catch the evening students and shepherd them to the voting area. Kasi kung walang mag-aabang sa kanila, malamang dediretso na sila sa classes nila. No? So that was part of trying to promote participative leadership in the college. And having gone through that experience, I know it's not a small feat. It is only in this way that students are assured of mature and responsive leadership and a strategic organization as a constituent of the college. I would like to take this opportunity to underscore the importance of student government. No, so again, once upon a time, no, hindi po ako naging member ng LSG. Yan. However, on our fourth year, we decided to actually form a new party that would participate in the elections. Okay. That way, we were hoping that students would have a choice in terms of selecting members of the law student government. So very proud to have been part of that effort because subsequently, the LSG that we formed did two things. They led the movement against cheating. Hindi ko lang maalala kung ano yung slogan na napili ng LSG noon for that effort. But the second one was, so kailan na nga ang election natin ngayon for LSG? The regular elections. It's October. Okay, so once upon a time, elections for the LSG was held at the start of the new academic year. And by the time it was concluded, tapos na rin yung bar. So mahirap mag-organize ng bar operations kasi hindi pa organized yung law student government. So one of the reforms that LSG pursued was rescheduling the elections so that the LSG would be in place and the bar operations would be in place as early as possible before the next bar examinations. So student government is where seeds of future leadership our zone. It is the crucible where organizational skills are honed. And I can readily say that our LSG is forming that organizational skill, especially given the short period of time that the LSG had to form the QRT for the mobilizations last Sunday. Okay. The officers that you elect will be the voice, the advocates, and the driving force behind initiatives that directly affect your daily lives here in the college. So please do not take the choices you make in relation to selecting members of the LSG Central Board lightly. Okay. Cultivating the talent of students as leaders at this level is therefore critical. To the ELECOM, as I see it, your mandate is clear in ensuring fairness, transparency, and of course, accessibility throughout every stage of the election. Okay. This means adherence to rules, impartiality in decisions, and a commitment to keeping every student informed, which is why I think the convocation today and the attendance that we are seeing is a significant indication of the ELECOM's commitment to making sure that you are fully and timely informed. The convocation will offer candidates the opportunity to present their platforms clearly, while the ELECOM facilitates respectful debate and, most importantly, give life to every student's vote. At the end of the day, a truly successful election is not just about the winners. No? It is about the breadth of student involvement. So I wish the candidates good luck. Okay, so I wish the candidates good luck. I encourage the students to please remain engaged, gather the information you need, reflect, and cast your votes responsibly. So thank you to the ELECOM. You are the champion of student engagement, which begins with choosing your student leadership. Okay, so good luck to everyone tonight. And I hope, of course, that you keep safe as we anticipate the typhoon tomorrow and Saturday.
Thank you, Dean Gwen, for those opening remarks. And with that, we will now be introducing the candidates. First, we will hear from the candidate running for BGC Evening Representative, Pablo Molawin Casanova, through a video presentation. Due to conflicts in class schedules, candidate Casanova will be unable to attend the day. Now, may I please ask everyone to turn their attention to the screen.
Evening BGC Eve, ako si Pablo Casanova, ang inyong tapat na kasama at kasangga, tumatakbong BGC Eve representative. If there's one word that best describes the BGC evening community, it's busy. We really don't have much time to address some of the problems in our life as law students. Sometimes we are forced to focus on our most urgent issues, leaving some of our issues unaddressed and doing it often alone. But it doesn't have to be this way. With Act Eve, you will find community through fun opportunities to interact with the greater law community. With CASA BGC Eve, you will also have more options in making BGC feel more like home. You will have more options for study spaces within and outside of the campus. Pero hindi lang blockmates mo at law students ang makakasama mo through your journey. As your representative, ako ang magiging tapat niyong kasama. An active representative that won't wait for your issues to reach me, but actively checking up on your needs, concerns, and issues. Ako po si Pablo, ang iyong tapat na kasama at kasangga dito sa BGC. I will now briefly explain some of my platforms. Busy evening students often have few opportunities to interact with greater law communities. To address this, Active Kasama will be a consolidation of activities with other campuses and law schools. This will include partnerships with organizations like SGV and interactions with other law schools through extracurricular activities. Our BGC evening Students have few options for working spaces as well. So as such, I will advocate for extended lounge hours, more 24/7 spaces, and access and discounts to co-working spaces under CASA BGC Eve. Lastly, as your representative, I will be an active issue spotter and assure the proper documentation and resolution of your concerns. Bilang tapat niyo na kasama, I will check up on you and regularly help resolve your concerns. Muli, ako po si Pablo, ang inyong tapat na kasama at kasangga dito sa BGC. Good evening, BGC Eve.
Candidates that are present here today at the Malcolm Theater. So again, the candidates each have 1 minute and 30 seconds to present their opening spiels. Please take note of that. 1 minute 30 seconds to present their opening spiels. With that, we can begin with our candidates for first year batch representatives, starting with candidate Sofia Beatriz Cruz.
Hello, test. Okay. Yes. Okay. Hey, freshies. I'm Pia Cruz, and running alongside my good friend Pio Cavino, who we will see later, we are your next first-year batch representatives. As your batch representatives, it's our goal to make sure that our batch aces law school. But what does that mean? It means focusing on our academics, ensuring that we have proactive communication, and ensuring that our batch remains engaged. So when it comes to academics, we will be establishing a batch master file to ensure that no freshies get left behind. And this will be integral to ensuring that we can aid each other when it comes to registration period. Because enrollment is a headache that you don't need. As for communication, we'll be establishing a batch telegram. It will be your one-stop shop for all things Malcolm Hall to ensure that we're not integrated just with each other, but with the entire college. As for engagements, via the batch telegram, we will be inviting all of our batchmates to participate in mobilizations in and beyond the university. Sino dito ay nasa EDSA? And yes, exactly. So because beyond Malcolm Hall, it's important that we as UP students remain engaged. Kaya what are we waiting for, freshies? Let's begin our process to ace law school with Pia Cruz and Pio Gavino. Thank you so much.
Thank you, candidate Cruz.
Let us now call on the next candidate also running for first year batch representative, candidate Pio Lorenzo Gavino.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Pio from 1G, and together with Pio Cruz, we are your next first-year batch representatives. Now, it's no secret that law school is tough. It's a challenge, but this creates an all the more need for proactive representation in the LSG, which is why Pia and I envision a batch that not just merely survives the next 4 years, but thrives. To do this, we want to help the batch ace law school. This looks like, firstly, looking after our precious academics. We're going to do this by firstly making sure that our undergraduate unit deficiencies, enrollment concerns, and registration concerns are dealt with properly. And on top of this, we'll go one step further by fostering closer relations with the rest of the batches to make sure that they can help us together as our mentors. Second, when it comes to communication, it's no secret that what makes a batch rep is their ability to communicate the concerns of their batch to the LSG, which is why P and I want to institute grievance forms while at the same time facilitate constant communication and consultation with our block reps. And lastly, on engagements. We're UP law students for a reason. As students of the best law school in the country, it's our duty to go beyond, which is why Pia and I will be creating a news bulletin to keep the entire batch up to speed. It's no secret that we'll be facing the next 4 years together. Pia and I want to lay a strong foundation to ensure that our batch helps each other through and, in essence, help everyone in the batch ace law school. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Gavino.
Let's call on our next candidate for first year batch rep, candidate Ashley Dion Lumawig.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming or for tuning in. My name is Ashley Lumawig from 1C, and I'm running for first year batch representative. It's been an incredibly overwhelming month, the first of this, our adjustment year, and already we've all had moments of struggle, adjusting to caseloads, figuring out who to ask for help, generally just trying to stay afloat. This is why I decided to run, because I know what it feels like to need support. And I know how powerful it feels when someone reaches out to you and says, may kasama ka. And that's the kind of culture I want to build. One where help doesn't feel like a privilege, or coming from a different background doesn't feel like a disadvantage. One where we all celebrate together, lift each other up as a batch. Because when we say kasama ka, we mean it in every sense. Kasama ka in academics, kasama ka sa advokasya, kasama ka sa kwento ng batch natin. Because this is where we start. And my hope is that no one ever feels like they're going through this alone. My hope is maramdaman ng mga batchmate ko na may kasama ka. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Lumawi.
Next, let us welcome to the floor a candidate also running for first year batch representative, candidate Adrian Timothy Tabor.
All right. Good evening, Freshies. I'm Ian Tabor from Block H, and together with Ashley Lumawig, we are running to be your next first-year batch reps. Kasama mo sa inyong UP Law School journey. Let's face it, UP Law School has been very overwhelming. Readings have been endless, nights have been sleepless, and breakdowns seem to keep on coming. It's very easy to be lost, isolated, and even left behind. That's why our vision is simple. Kasama ka, because no one should go through this journey by themselves. First, kasama ka sa Malcolm, through batch council and gumondang internet. Second, kasama ka sa ACADS, through academic tutor pool and pre-exam lecture series. And last, kasama sa advokasya, through accessible university services and batch parties for a cause. Dahil sa bawat tagumpay at bawat hamon, may kasama ka. Maraming salamat for attending this convocation. We hope this will be an opportunity for us to get to talk more about what we stand for and how we can serve you better. Again, I'm Ian Tabor, your first year batch rep. Kasama mo sa Malcolm, kasama mo sa ACADS, kasama sa advokasya, at kasama mo maging abogado. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Tabor.
At this point, let us all welcome to the floor a candidate for second year batch rep, candidate Nicola Gapus.
Good evening, UP College of Law. My name is Nicola Colagapus from Block 2A, and I'm running to be your next accompanying second-year batch representative. As your batch representative, I have 3 platforms: collate, collaborate, and coalesce. And through these platforms, I envision a second-year UP Law batch that fosters direct communication, effective organization, and lasting associations that we can carry with us throughout the rest of our shared law school journey. Through collate, I seek to centralize our batch resources and channels in order to maximize our efficiency. Through collaborate, I seek to strengthen the presence of the support offered by the batch representatives and to amplify the voices of our batch and LSG affairs. And lastly, through coalesce, I seek to create opportunities for our batch to bond in meaningful and organic ways that we can carry with us throughout the rest of our law school journey. I am running for this position because I have had the wonderful pleasure and opportunity to serve this batch once before, and it would be my honor to do so again. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Gapus.
Coming forward next is a candidate running for third year batch representative, candidate Louis Antoine Constantino.
Good evening, UP Law community, and to the third year batch. It is your hashtag Antoine and only running to be your next third year batch representative. As third years, we are less than 2 years away from graduating and around 2 years from taking the bar exam. And this school year, we are taking 70 units across 6 subjects each semester. This is a challenge that definitely needs to be overcome together. And that will be overcome through a constant database of academic materials, combined with matinong lecture halls and study halls. And as a third year batch, we've gotten to know each other through our classes, shared, and throughout our activities as well. But let's go beyond these opportunities and get to know each other through constant and fun activities such as meals, tambays, and even recreational sports to build one matinong samahan. And of course, going through the journey of law school is tough in itself. And we really have to look out and be there for one another. But nevertheless, we must be able to actually keep up with our things and grow and develop despite the challenge. And I hope to do that by bringing a constant service to you all through our matinong job opportunities, systems, and services. So hopefully, you'll give me the opportunity to bring serbisyong constant at matino to you. Once again, this is hashtag Antoine and Oli, running to be your next third year batch representative.
Thank you, candidate Constantino.
Let us now call on to the floor our candidate for fourth year batch representative, candidate Nadine Lourdes Versailles.
Good evening, UP Law. My name is Nadine Versailles from Block 4 GI, your senior batch representative. And I believe that with my platforms and your support, we can make senior year our most successful one yet. How? Through 4 easy steps: support, transparency, engagement, and participation. Sa success, kay Nadine Versailles. Sa success, sa support. We'll have an advising seminar for senior concerns to be addressed beforehand and provide regularly updated FAQs and a slot tracker for electives. We'll also provide a primer for graduation-related concerns. Second, sa success, sa transparency. We'll continue utilizing Messenger and Telegram in relaying announcements and establish a senior batch of Telegram account to expedite addressing concerns. Third, sa success, sa engagement. We'll disseminate opportunities for educational discussions, mobilizations, and primers. And lastly, sa success, sa participation. We'll establish senior committees for senior matters such as graduation and the yearbook, and will hold SEM-ender or SEM-starter activities. Iyan ang 4 steps para sumakses sa senior year. Sa success, sa support, transparency, engagement, and participation. Sa success, kay Nadine Versailles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidate Versailles.
Finally, let us now hear from the candidate running for Public Relations Officer, candidate Hak Giling.
So hi everyone, I'm Hak Giling and I'm running to be your next Public Relations Officer. My promise po is simple. Is that you'll always know what's happening. Your concerns will always be heard, and our communication will always be clear, consistent, and creative. How will I do that? First, by already continuing the already existing branding, because in my experience, branding, that takes away so much time from doing the other mandates of the PRO position. And speaking of other mandates, I will also make space for your voices through anonymous feedback system and the student pulse, where the stance of our community will be heard and will be considered in the drafting of statements by the LSG and implementing projects. Third, I also plan to build trust by releasing transparency reports, achievement reports of LSG, and I also plan to build our culture by reviving our bulletin board and making space for humor and students spotlight our non-teaching staff, students, and organization. And at the end of the day, this is not just about announcements, it's about connection. And a vote for me is a vote for an LSG that communicates with clarity, listens with sincerity, and acts with transparency. Again, I'm Hak Giling, and always remember, Hak has your back. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, candidate Giling, and of course, thank you to all of our candidates for introducing yourself to the UP Law body. Now that we have heard from all of our candidates, let's give them a chance to address the questions submitted by the UP Law community. So once again, to repeat the mechanics, each candidate to whom a question is addressed will generally be given 1 minute to answer the question, unless we tell you otherwise, whether it be a longer or shorter time to answer. But generally, you're given 1 minute. When the question is directed to all candidates, Please follow, please answer the question in the order that we say. So we will be calling on you one by one. So wait for your name to be called. And finally, should the question be directed to candidates affiliated with Greek organizations, kindly state your affiliation first. So at this point, we will now begin with the questions from the online question form.
A short reminder, please, to all candidates to not use your phones or your cell phones as you answer the questions. Thank you.
Okay, so at this point, the Elecom will now collect the phones of the candidates to ensure compliance with the rule. Yes. So again, just a quick reminder, if the question is directed to all candidates, please wait for us to call on your name before you answer the question. And at this point, I think we can move on to our first online question. Okay, let us just wait for a bit while we are just fixing through some technical difficulties. Some reminders. Again, our ballot box is still available. So if you do have questions you want to submit in the ballot box, you may do so by going to the registration booth. Sorry, drop box. So the drop box for questions is available in the registration booth. Okay, so now we can move on to our first online question. This question is directed to all candidates. Our first question is, what is the importance of the option to vote abstain in the LSG question? Once again, what is the importance of the option to vote abstain in the LSG election? Let us start with candidate for Public Relations Officer, Hack Giling. You have 1 minute to answer the question.
The abstain vote is important because it gives the chance for the voting public to have a choice to deny the election of one candidate. It's not always the opportunity that the candidate running, the only candidate running, is the most fit to that position. And the abstain vote is that vote to deny that candidate and to declare them, or to cast your vote to say that they are unfit for that position.
Thank you, candidate Giling. Now let's move on to candidate Verceles. You have 1 minute to answer the question.
So the importance of the option to vote abstain in the LSG elections is that the UP student body should be able to have a choice. And even if there is only one candidate, the student body should be able to express whether that candidate should have their vote of confidence or not. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Verceles. Now let's hear an answer from candidate for third year batch representative, Louis Antoine Constantino.
So the importance of the abstain vote can be summarized in 2 words: true representation. It's true representation even if there is no one in the position. Because here, the abstain vote represents what the people really want. And it's that person, whoever runs in the position, is not that person they want to represent them. And despite that absence, that is still a representation of what they want. They want somebody who is better qualified, better up for the job, and from there, I believe that the abstain vote should still be there and take charge in the elections.
Thank you, candidate Constantino. Now let's move on. Let's hear the answer from candidate for second year batch rep, candidate Gapus.
The abstain vote is important because students should not be forced to choose a candidate that they don't want to have in that position. The right to vote is the right to vote not just for anyone, but for the person that you believe deserves to be in that position, has those qualifications that you want to see in that particular position or that role. And so abstain is important because it enshrines that right to vote and that right to choose who you really believe should be in that position. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Gapus. Now let's hear from our candidates for first year batch rep, starting with candidate Tabor.
The abstain vote is the fulfillment of our right to suffrage. Our democratic elections should be the voice of the people. And if the people feel like the candidates right now are not, do not share their vision, do not share what they want for themselves, then abstain should be an option.
Now let us hear from candidate Lumawig.
The importance of having the option to abstain from elections is because the law student government is vital to the lifeblood of UP Law, and UP Law students are a discerning group of people. Abstaining is an active choice to not vote as a direct reflection on the existing pool of candidates. They're actively rejecting a candidate by abstaining, and having that option is a form of voicing out your take on the elections.
Let us now hear from candidate Gavino.
Abstain is a conscious, deliberate choice of the electorate, and hence it must be protected. Your choice not to vote someone is something that should be respected not just by candidates, but by the entire electorate at large. Allow me to emphasize this point. Never should it be misconstrued to paint the electorate as indecisive. Abstain is a manifestation of disenfranchisement, which above all should be respected. Thank you.
Finally, let us hear from candidate Cruz.
Beyond the right to suffrage in the Constitution, we have to keep in mind public office is what? Public trust, exactly. And abstain is the way for the electorate to say that if we have, it's the way the electorate expresses if we as candidates have gained their trust. Thus, it's an important right of the electorate to abstain if we haven't. Thus, as Pio said, it's not an indication of lack of participation. Rather, it is a proactive choice, an expression of public trust in candidates during an election. Thank you.
Thank you to all our candidates for answering the first question. Now we move on to the next, still addressed to all the candidates seated today. What is academic dishonesty and how should it be punished in this college? Again, what is academic dishonesty and how should it be punished in this college? We will begin with the first year batch representative candidates, starting with candidate Cruz.
Academic dishonesty, my goodness. The freshies should be very familiar with this, not because we are dishonest, but before we came to Malcolm Hall, we attended a forum regarding academic dishonesty. Yes. So academic dishonesty takes many forms, but ultimately, it's just a matter of being intellectually dishonest, obviously, in the matter of recitations, caseload. Ultimately, it's taking shortcuts. And we as law schools, in the best law school in the country, should not be doing this. Thus, the punishments have been, I believe, sufficiently outlined in the honor code that's being proposed by the administration that we as freshies have become very familiar with. So ultimately, it seems the administration has already begun steps towards being clear with its definition and its penalties. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Cruz. Now to candidate Gavino.
As UP students, we should always remember that honor comes before excellence. Academic dishonesty, let's keep it simple. What? It's cheating. It's essentially being dishonest or improper in your academic works. It can comprise plagiarizing, copying from other people, and it's unbecoming of a UP student. It should be punished accordingly with our guidelines on ethics to ensure that firstly, we should penalize these types of unbecoming behavior of a UP student. In a university that prides itself as the best of the best and produces the best of the best, we see our alumni go on to the world stage, and even the national stage in leadership positions. Rooting it out now and ensuring that our students abide by the best standards of ethics is one way to ensure this. And it can be done so by ensuring ethical guidelines by the retributive punishments set forth in our ethical guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Gavino. Now to Candidate Lumawig.
Academic dishonesty is a lot of things. It's cheating, taking shortcuts, but what it essentially is really depriving yourself of the genuine opportunity to learn. I think taking shortcuts like that hurts only you. And if that isn't punishment enough, all the guidelines provided for in the student code and by the general law of ethics is a sufficient punishment for cheating not just yourself, but everyone else around you who are putting in the work that you refuse to.
Thank you, Candidate Lumawig. Now to Candidate Tabor.
Academic dishonesty is a betrayal of yourself, of your professors, and of our institution. Yes, this can be categorized as cheating, as doing all of these things, but at the end of the day, it is the betrayal of us and our stakeholders. And of course, this should be punished through what has been outlined by our administration. I believe that academic dishonesty has no place in the UP College of Law, especially when we pride ourselves in our service to the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Tabor. Now to hear from our second-year batch representative candidate, Candidate Gapus.
Academic dishonesty is disrespecting not only your own capabilities, but the institution that put its full trust, faith, and belief in you when it accepted you into that college or into that institution. I think that nothing worth doing is easy, and everything worth doing is hard. So giving in to academic dishonesty is a complete betrayal of what you think you can do and what your institution believed that you can do and why it accepted you. And I think that it should continue to be punished according to the guidelines set in place by the college. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Gapus. Now to our third-year batch representative candidate, Candidate Constantino.
Academic dishonesty is material misrepresentation. It's misrepresenting your ability to do your work, misrepresenting in the fact that that is your work, and it's misrepresenting the trust of the Filipino people in you, being students of the UP College of Law. And here, we do not take academic dishonesty lightly, and I believe that it should be punished by following the systems we have in place here in the UP College of Law, and that involves going through the proper channels of investigation that include the due process necessary to afford the school its opportunity to hear the side also of the student and to know very well if what the student had done is indeed this material misrepresentation amounting to academic dishonesty. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Constantino. Now to hear from Candidate Verceles.
Academic dishonesty pertains to cheating and being overall untruthful in taking all sorts of assessments, such as recits and exams, and other requirements, and that the results do not reflect what is meant to be tested by the assessment. So it should be punished following the guidelines in place, such as a proper investigation and meting out the appropriate penalty based on the severity of the offense. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Verceles. And finally, to hear from Candidate Giling.
Okay, hello. So academic dishonesty is really just plain and simple, being dishonest, being untruthful, cheating, taking shortcuts, not doing your work, not doing your job as a student. It's really the unbecoming, like what the other candidate said, it's the unbecoming of you being a UP student. How it must be punished. In their college, in our college, there should be a proper investigation. The student must be heard, and the investigation and penalty must be grounded on facts and proof. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our candidates for answering that question. Now let's move on to our next question. Our next question is, if you are in the middle of your term and you have failed to substantially achieve your proposed platforms, tell us at least 2 ways we can hold you accountable. Again, if you are in the middle of your term and you have failed to substantially achieve your proposed platforms, tell us at least 2 ways we can hold you accountable. We will start with candidate for second year batch rep, candidate Nicola Gapus.
Hello. If I was in the middle of my term and I failed to achieve any of my proposed platforms, then I think a way that I could be held accountable is through hearings with the batch in order for them to voice out their concerns regarding the inability to meet those platforms, and for them to be able to express what they want from me and what they want me to do in regards to that. Aside from that, I think also that sanctions from the LSG itself, if the LSG has interventions in place in order to be able to hold their officers accountable in keeping up with what they promised to the student body, then that's what I think could happen. Thank you.
Next to answer is our candidate for third year batch rep, candidate Constantino.
So if I would fail to substantially achieve at least 2 of my proposed platforms, to hold me accountable will be definitely through being transparent with you all. It will be meeting with my constituents, listening to their concerns in what particular ways I have failed them, and learn to address them if I can, and if not, hold myself accountable to the processes enshrined in the UP Law Constitution that may involve internal sanctions from the LSG, and even, if necessary, the proper process in line with the student tribunal for the position that I am in. So that's all.
Up next, let's hear an answer from fourth year batch representative candidate Nadine Lourdes Verceles.
Hi, if within the middle of my term I would be unable to achieve my platforms, you may hold me accountable by calling me out, and this may be through hearings or meetings with my batch to tell me what I missed and what I should improve. And also another way is through grievance mechanisms with the LSG and also following the guidelines in the Constitution and the Student Tribunal to hold me accountable for the platforms that I've missed. Thank you.
Next, let's call on candidate for Public Relations Officer, Hack Giling.
If I fail to fulfill my promises in the middle of the semester, you can hold me accountable by submitting a grievance form in my initiative, which is kept in the docket. That's an anonymous form where you can file a complaint or file a grievance against me, and that will be raised to the central board. And also, you can file a complaint directly to the central board against me and tell me that I was not doing my job as your PRO. Thank you.
Let's now hear from our candidates for first year batch rep, starting with candidate Cruz.
First things first, it should never get to this point. Absolutely not, because we as leaders must hold ourselves accountable. Accountability begins with transparency. So if there are external reasons why certain programs or platforms are unable to be achieved, we should preempt being called out for it. We should be the first to communicate why there are hiccups, why there are difficulties in executing projects. But beyond that, let's say it does get to that point. You can hold us all accountable face to face, because we understand that these are not personal attacks. We are being held accountable to do our jobs. And also, as Pio mentioned in our opening spiel, part of our platforms is a grievance form in our batch telegram. So you could absolutely course any concerns through that form. Thank you.
Up next, let's call on candidate Gavino.
I'd like to highlight 2 ways to hold me accountable should I falter in my term. Firstly, a top-down approach, meaning oversight directly from the LSG, which means going over necessary disciplinary measures and sanctions if needed. And second, a bottom-up approach where we hear criticism from my batchmates. Specifically, I'd like to look for constructive criticism so I can best carry out my duties. Let me highlight that Pia and I have a brand of leadership built on constant feedback and proper constructive criticism. We believe it's important to be in constant communication and consultation with our constituents. You don't have to go around petitioning for a writ of mandamus for us to do our duties. What we want to ensure and what we want to do is to serve our batch to the fullest of our abilities. Thank you.
Let's now hear from candidate Lumawig.
First of all, my running mate and I are running on a platform of accessibility. So, I should be open to every one of my batchmates approaching me to let me know that I am not fulfilling my duty in their eyes, because they should have access to me to let me know that. Next, I believe if I have to be held accountable for neglect of duty, I should be sanctioned by the proper governing body, such as the LSG or the tribunal, and be subjected to hearing where my batchmates can be present and air out why they feel na nagkulang ako. And I could be asked to take a step back. I would deserve it should I not fulfill these platforms. And they can process all their grievances in an open setting, because this is public office, and an open setting arena where I can publicly acknowledge my lack of effectivity is right and just for not fulfilling my promises.
Finally, let us call on candidate Tabor.
I believe dito po pasok yung project namin na Batch Council, wherein we want to ensure that there's a system that encourages open communication and transparency. And of course, this includes the voices from all the blocks in the first year batch. But then again, that's why Ashley and I formed all of our platforms and projects, that there's a step-by-step process as to how to achieve each and every one of them. Na pinag-usapan namin na, okay, pag nakaupo na tayo, and if we get to win the first year batchship, upo na tayo at gagawin natin yung lahat ng programa natin. Thank you.
Thank you to all our candidates for answering this question. And now we move on to the next. Our next question addressing all the candidates: what is justice and how can the LSG promote that? Again, what is justice and how can the LSG promote that? Let's start with our first year batch representatives, candidate Tabor.
I believe justice is where everyone receives equity, wherein everyone has the same standing and footing in the eyes of law. And I believe that the LSG can promote this through giving a platform to each and every one of its constituents, wherein everyone is equal and everyone has the opportunity to voice out their concerns and their issues and what they want to see their law school journey to be. Thank you.
And now we move on to candidate Lumawig.
I think in its simplest form, justice is getting what you are due. So if it's a grievance, you get back what you lost. If it's justice coverall, you get what you need. So that's equity, it's equality. You justly deserve to have everything you need to make your life livable, to make law school survivable. And the law student government can promote this by making everything that the student body needs present, accessible, and working behind the scenes for them to be able to access whenever they need it. That's just. If you need something, the law student government, which is the body who should be providing for you, will have that available to you. And that's how you can promote a just law student government.
Next, let's hear from candidate Gavino.
To me, justice is catharsis from being wronged. The LSG can do its role in promoting justice by firstly acknowledging the fact that it is the student governing body of the country's premier law educational institution. This means we're granted by a great platform to voice out and speak out about social injustices. This means that we have the capability, both the intellect and the know-how in making sure that our country achieves justice in the first place. How can we do this? Firstly, by ensuring that our platforms are in line, and that second, we promote ourselves as a voice of reason in society. And for me, the most important is that the LSG can promote justice by ensuring that it is an example of good public service for its constituents.
Next, let's hear from candidate Cruz.
Justice, in a very simple sentence, is to afford to each in line with their needs. Very simple. So, how can you do that if you're not even familiar with what your constituents need? So you begin by first understanding what are the material issues affecting your constituents and address them with your platforms. When you're elected into the LSG, execute those platforms. That's why you were elected in the first place. But justice goes beyond Malcolm Hall. We as law students should know that. Law school goes into the nation, into society, which is why part of our programs is to encourage engagement beyond Malcolm Hall by participating in mobilizations, understanding what the country needs, understanding what the problems are. And that's how justice can be executed by the LSG. Thank you.
And now we will hear from the candidate for second year batch representative, candidate Gapus.
Okay, hi. I think justice is the equitable distribution of the rights and resources across the student body. And I think that since it is rooted in that student body, it's important for us to continuously hear the voices of our batch and of the people here in UPLA. And that's why in my platforms, I also put at the forefront being able to hear the voices of everybody in my batch in order to make sure that we treat their problems and their grievances in a way that's specifically tailored to them, because that is how we should be delivering justice, in a way that should be specifically tailored to you. And also, I think that the LSG can continue to promote justice in a grander sense by continuing to remember that those who have less in life should have more in law. And I think that we should continue to strengthen our political advocacies, yes, and continue to yes, to present those. Thank you.
Next, let's hear from candidate Constantino.
I believe justice from the root of it is what is just. But as the fellow candidates here have said, it is also what is due to the people. It is also what is right. And I believe that it is what is just in light of the difficulty and the adversity each unique circumstance face. But justice is not only for the UP law community. It has to be also for the Filipino people as a whole. So how does the LSG promote that? The LSG should be able to promote that within the UP law community by addressing the systems that promote inequity and unfairness, while at the same time, the UP law community, through the UP LSG, has the opportunity to actually represent the Filipino people and to call out and to stand for what the law provides, for what is just for the public at large. Thank you.
Next, let's hear from candidate Verceles.
Hello, I believe that justice is being fair in all our dealings and with everybody being treated with equity. So the LSG can promote justice in the college through transparency and having all services accessible to all. Likewise, for global, national, and local issues, the LSG can remain active in mobilizations and, like my platform of engagement, disseminating opportunities for people to participate to be more active and informed. Thank you.
And lastly, let's hear from candidate Gita.
Justice for me is plainly making sure that everyone gets their chance. As LSG and as PRO, one way we can do that is making sure that every student's voice is heard. And I plan to achieve that through the Student Pulse, which is my initiative, so that we as LSG, can develop a stance that encapsulates the voice of everyone and every student. Thank you.
Thank you to our candidates for answering that question. Let's move on to our next online question. Our next online question is, have you read the UP Law Students Constitution of 2022? If it will be amended, what changes will you propose? Again, have you read the UP Law Students Constitution of 2022? If it will be amended, what changes will you propose? Let's start with candidate for first year batch rep, candidate Cruz.
Siyempre binasa ko yan. That's one of the first documents you receive when you file for your candidacy. And of course, this constitution, parang constitution of the nation din yan. So it's important that you understand the provisions within before you make your plans, which is why Pio and I consulted the constitution of the students and the proper mandate that a batch representative has. And this leads me to the second point, which is in answer of the second question. I don't believe it requires any amendments at this point, especially when it pertains to the duties of a batch representative. It's quite clear. So in line with that, possibly recommend more clear delineations with the mandates of batch representatives as it is. But verbal edges-wise, it's a very clear body of provisions for us candidates to follow. Thank you.
Next up, let us hear from Public Relations Officer Candidate Giling.
Oh, okay. First up, the only amendment I want to propose in the 2022 Students' Constitution is to add something similar to what my initiative, which is the student pulse, because I believe that in the stance making of the LSG, in making the statements, every student's voice must be heard. And I did not see that in any of the provisions pertaining to my position as PRO, and I believe that it is very important and crucial to involve every student in all the statements that we release as LSG. Thank you very much.
Let us now hear from candidate for first year batch rep, candidate Gavino.
So yes, I have read it, and allow me to focus on the provisions about my position that I aspire for, specifically the provisions for batch representatives. There are 4 there, as far as I can remember, but allow me to focus on that we should be strengthening the wording in the mandate of the batch representatives. What do I mean by this? I want to make the wording more consultative. I want the batch representatives to be specifically mandated to ensure consultations with their constituents. After all, that's what makes a batch rep a batch rep. I think this would allow the batch rep to be further mandated, compelled to ensure that they live out and know about the disposition of their constituents. That's it. Thank you.
Let's now hear from candidate for fourth year batch rep, candidate Vercelis.
Hi, yes, I have read the Constitution. If I could amend anything, I would like to include all senior students in the list of constituencies for the senior batch representative. So these include the BGC, Iloilo, and EVE students. In practice, we do cater to all of them, particularly when we deal with enlistment and graduation concerns. And including them in our constituents would enable them to also vote for who will be senior batch representative, because they do have the right to choose on who should represent them as well. Thank you.
Up next, let's hear from candidate for first year batch representative, candidate Lumawig.
I actually read the student constitution before I even decided to run. And coming from that place, I wanted to first understand the systems, really familiarize myself with all the functions of the law student government and the demands on it to me should I decide to run and then become elected batch rep. And so related to the position I'm running for specifically, if there were amendments to be made to the existing constitution, I would propose that it include under the 1BR mandate our platform of instituting a batch council. I would like to have that officially included in the constitution and have it institutionalized, because an official batch council, as our platforms would dictate, is extremely necessary in helping freshmen specifically to get access to everything they could possibly need entering law school.
Let's now hear from candidate for third year batch rep, candidate Constantino.
So I did read the UP Law Constitution, and if there's anything that I would like to amend specifically to the position of third year batch representative, I want to tie it back to the platform of having this database of opportunities available to the students, because the third year mandate of the batch representative is to focus on the third year batch of Dilimanday. But however, the program of destinations also falls under the mandate of the third year batch representative of Dilimanday. And that kind of exclusion also to those who are other also third year does not feel very representative of the mandate of the people. Job opportunities are for all. And in that case, I think that the third year position in the Constitution should be at least amended to also include a provision to allow for the better integration of the positions of working with the other representatives to put this program of better opportunities of which destinations is to give to all UP Law. Thank you.
Up next, let's hear from candidate for first year batch rep, candidate Tabor.
Yes, I have read the LC Constitution, and I believe there's supposed to be focus on the provisions on our position, the first year batch rep. And I have seen that we are empowered to become the voice of our constituents, of our batchmates, as well as to do projects that will help us to fulfill that mandate. And I believe it is in our project, the Batch Council, that I would advocate to be institutionalized. I believe that this is an important decentralization of power when it comes to the LSG's control of information. As a block rep of Block H, I would love for information to be streamlined to the blocks through that way. And I believe it is through the batch council where we can empower each block to have their own voice, and there will be a two-way communication for both sides. Thank you.
Finally, let's hear from candidate for second year batch rep, candidate Gapus.
Hello, yes, I read the Constitution before I ran for the position because I wanted to see what the second year batch representative is supposed to do. And when I read it, I realized that it's a very general description. It says that you're supposed to represent the batch and create projects for the batch. I think that this can be further amended by mandating specific roles and functions that the batch rep needs to do, such as have regular town halls, or in general, at least ensure that your batch is regularly heard. Your batch is regularly heard and informed regarding LSG initiatives. Batch town halls are something that I have personally in my platforms, and I overall believe that the Constitution, in regards to batch representatives for any year level, needs to be more strongly worded in order to give specific roles and functions to that batch representative. Thank you.
Thank you to all the candidates for answering that question. And now we move on to the next set of questions prepared by the Commission for the Information of the Electorate. For our first question, addressing again all the candidates. Class suspensions have been rampant due to the multiple typhoons that our country experiences. While the safety of the students is of utmost importance, there persists the issue that student learning is compromised. How do you think this can be balanced? Again, class suspensions have been rampant due to the multiple typhoons that our country experiences, and while the safety of the students is of utmost importance, there persists the issue that student learning is compromised. How do you think this can be balanced? Starting with our candidate for second year batch representative, candidate Gapos.
Okay, so I think with the multitude of suspensions that we've been experiencing, I think that one way that we can balance the need to stay safe and the compromise that it has on learning is by making online classes and on-site classes optional and to the discretion of the profs and to the students. For example, I think certain suspensions, if there are classes or if there are blocks with students that if the whole block can attend the class and if the prof wants to attend the class, then I think that there should be that option for them. However, I think that we can also just ensure that online classes can push through as much as possible in order to ensure that students don't fall behind on their classes, their syllabi, and their overall learning. So thank you.
Now, to a candidate for first year batch representative, candidate Tabor.
I agree that there needs to be a balance, and I also believe that freshies should be first and foremost consulted as to whether or not they are affected by the typhoon. And I believe it is the consultative nature of the first year batch rep and that case-to-case basis wherein our platform, Batch Council, will get to empower more our batchmates, wherein we will see sino ba yung apektado, sino ba yung kailangan ng tulong, and how can LSG extend their help to these constituents. And after that consultation, we can mobilize to contact our professor through our BDLs on whether or not we should conduct online or face-to-face classes. Thank you.
Now, let's hear from candidate Constantino.
I do believe that safety is of paramount importance for all situations, regardless of whatever year you are and how old you are. In light of example, tomorrow there's actually suspension of classes, but there will still be synchronous and asynchronous activities. I believe that that is the way that there is a balance for all things. However, still, I believe the way the UP Law community should approach this is by actually consulting with its members, with its students, to be able to ensure that the students are actually safe, first and foremost, to conduct any alternative method of class. Then after you consult with the safety of students, you ask them, because we are consenting adults, that are we available to do the class? Can we do the class? And what kind of class would we prefer? Then afterwards, if it's not able in light of safety, the professor and the class should be able to come up with an alternative output that will properly assess the topics and the lessons at hand to not compromise the safety of our students during very, very difficult suspensions. Thank you.
Now, let's hear from candidate Lumawig.
Absolutely 100% safety comes first. We have no way of telling how everyone individually is experiencing a typhoon differently. Some have better access to sturdier infrastructure in their homes. Some are living away from their homes. So safety comes first, and suspensions for on-site classes are a given when there's a typhoon. But as law students, we have all already been through at least 16 years of schooling. And I'm confident that we have the chops to be self-governing when it comes to learning, when it comes to academics. So, if there's anything the pandemic taught us, is that we can absolutely have school away from school. There's the option to have classes online, there's the option to assign reading assignments or alternative activities, as with what we've been given with the past suspensions. We were given worksheets or other deliverables in place of an on-site.
Now, let's hear from candidate Verceles.
Hi, so regarding the suspensions, I believe that alternative modes of learning should be looked into, particularly in shifting to online platforms, such as recorded lectures and sessions. And furthermore, asynchronous activities may be also looked into to replace face-to-face classes. Furthermore, I believe that following my platform of transparency, consultation should be made with the students to determine their condition and how best to assess their needs. Thank you.
Next, let's hear from candidate Gavino.
I'm from Marikina. Binabaha kami lagi. And I would know what it means to be adversely affected by typhoons. But this personal experience grants me the wisdom to say, first and foremost, that we're lucky that we have a responsive dean who can best ensure student priority in terms of safety. In terms of ensuring that the learning experience can be balanced with student safety, I propose two things. Firstly, we leave the discretion of the professors and the classes. Granted, it has two things. Firstly, adequate consultation with the students to acknowledge that, diba, maybe the professor and the students know what's best for them. They know in their own way what the proper learning pedagogy is the most appropriate for that class, and the students can add feedback. But second, I'd also like to emphasize that the college, the dean, should continue to release guidelines so that our professors can be guided accordingly with the, well, nature of all of these suspensions. Thank you.
Next, let's hear from candidate Giling.
Okay, so for me, the strict schedule for the midterms and finals should be adjusted or relaxed. We should not cram the syllabus for the remaining time given the so many suspensions. And for me, suspensions are inevitable, and I believe that its impact can actually be lessened. As LSG, we must be equipped to help the student body in maneuvering these alternative learning systems, and we can also have listen to their concerns, and if they need our help, to contact their professors in case that they need more time to adjust, to more time to understand their lessons, their subjects, and all. Thank you.
Finally, let's hear from candidate Cruz.
Actually, this is a very apropos question because, as mentioned, there's suspensions tomorrow, but there has been one freshie block that has actually informed us that they are having troubles with their professors because some do not intend to hold online classes. And while we respect the academic freedom of our professors, our learning is also important. So we have to recognize the validity of online classes, asynchronous methods, etc. These are all things we're familiar with since Yes, the pandemic. But beyond that, beyond consultations, we need to institute academic leniency policies when it comes to suspensions because we can never anticipate how our constituents can be adversely affected. So some of these would include leniency when it comes to absences, lates, when it comes to online classes, and disconnections. Thank you.
Okay, now let's move on to the next question. The next question is addressed to all candidates except the first year batch rep candidates. So the question goes, you could have run during the 2025 general elections. Why did you only run now, and how will you work together with the sitting LSG officers? Again, you could have run during the 2025 general elections. Why did you only run now, and how will you work together with the sitting LSG officers? Let us start with candidate for your third year batch rep, candidate Constantino.
So why run now and not last elections? Last elections actually was timed during the midterm season of that semester. And as a student, here first and foremost, I'm to do my academics properly. Because we are here to become better learners of the law and to be lawyers of the people. And how can we do that if we're not prioritizing our academics? Of course, the heart of service is there. It's never left. The main purpose is really just to ensure that I am able to keep up with the academics and to ground myself and sustain myself and be able to properly serve the people. And now, how will I work with the current pool of LSD officers? It would mean to consult with them, to talk to them, to get to know them, how far in they are with their platforms, how far out they are with projects, and get up to speed with what they need help with, what they actually have in line, and find my best way to get into the groove with them by really understanding what they have on offer and how I can better fit into that scheme. Thank you.
Let's now hear from candidate for fourth year batch representative, candidate Verceles.
Hi, thank you for the question. So I was actually thinking of running last elections, but I opted not to because I experienced a recent death in the family. So apart from grieving, we also had to settle the estate of my grandmother, and thankfully now, a lot of the matters have now settled, and I'm also in a better position to run, having been a senior for 2 months and knowing the problems that are currently being faced and how to best to address them. So I will work together with the sitting LSU officers through consultations with them, similar to how I consulted with Pau, the incumbent senior batch rep, in shaping my platforms. So I will ask the problems that are currently being faced and if there are any possible solutions that we can have for them. Thank you.
Now let's hear from candidate for second year batch rep, candidate Gapus.
Thank you for the question. I didn't run in the last general elections because I specifically dedicated my first year of law school to fully acclimating to the difficulties of it. And although I did, I also tried to make sure that I had room for my passion for service by joining smaller commitment roles such as being in BOC. However, I decided to run here. And I decided to run here because after experiencing working closely with the LSG during ADAP, especially Elaine Gosico, the incumbent second year batch representative, who was my co-head during ADAP, I believe that we established a really great work dynamic that was hopefully fruitful when you look at the fruits of our work. And I think that I have also gotten to know a lot of other members of the LSG through the ADAP as well, and also through BOC. And I think that we would work well together because of those established dynamics.
Finally, let's hear from candidate for public relations officer, candidate Giling.
Okay. So to be honest po, during the last elections, I was really expecting a heavy academic load, a hard semester, a hard year, a hard incoming third year. Now that I know that my semester has become bearable, very bearable, and I know that I can do a job that best fits my expectations for the job of PRO. I decided to run. The reason for this is I don't want to serve knowing that my work as an LSD member would suffer, knowing that I have to prioritize my academics, because that's why we're here. We're here to study, to be honest. But my passion is also to serve. So now that my academic load is bearable, my passion, I wanted to serve the student body. And how will I work with the LSG? Simple. Just focus on smooth transition. Do the pubs that have already been pending since the beginning. Thank you.
And now let's move on to our next question. Sino ang may pinakamahabang buhay at bakit? This is addressing all our candidates. A. Coco Martin. B. John Wick. 3. Peste sa buhay ko. And D. My situationship. Let's start with candidate Cruz.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, again, you have 30 seconds to answer the question.
I will say D, my situationship. Kasi hindi siya situationship. Shout out, Luke. Love you. Oh, yeah. Yes, sana long-lasting yon. Kilig!
Next, candidate Gavino.
C, yung peste sa bahay ko, I swear, laging may ipis sa CR, kahit maglagay ako ng bygone, kahit yung mga trap or anything, hindi nawawala. And worst of all, dumadami pa. So it's kind of killing my mind. I'm losing my mind. But hopefully may mahanap ako na maayos sa Ace Hardware or something. Thank you.
Now let's hear it from candidate Lumawig.
Unfortunately, my situationship is also the peste sa bahay ko, so I would answer po C and D. Ang tagal-tagal ng buhay nila, bakit ba hindi pa siya mag-end? Thank you.
Next, let's hear from candidate Tabor.
I think dito, since, I will go with Coco Martin. Kasi I swear, parang, kasi we lived overseas, I think, bagong pandemic. Meron ng mga Coco Martin, I think it was probinsyano. Pagkabalik namin, meron pa rin probinsyano. Tapos yung pandemic, may probinsyano pa rin. So I think siya yung pinakamatagal yung buhay dyan.
Next, candidate Gapus.
Hello, I would have answered D, but my situationship died because he became my boyfriend there. So I think I would answer C because I live in Berkeley and they have like a cockroach problem. But yeah, thank you.
Next, let's hear it from candidate Constantino.
Feeling ko pare-pareho tayo ng developer ng condo. It's SMDC. Kasi kahit ako, ang sagot ko dyan, letter C, peste sa bahay ko, and I live in an SMDC condo. And imagine nyo, hanggang ngayon, uuwi ako, tutulog ako, gigising ako, may ipis dyan kung saan-saan. At higit sa lahat, if they can survive a nuclear fallout, they can live forever.
Next, let's hear from candidate Verceles.
Hi, me, I'd answer B, John Wick. Kasi tumagal siya ng parang 4 na movies kahit ilang beses siyang mabaril. So similar to my platform of support, marami siyang support, particularly in the form of plot armor. Thank you.
And finally, let's hear from candidate Giling.
So by process of elimination po, ang sagot ko ay peste sa bahay ko. Kasi immortal talaga yan sila eh. Kung sa kanila SMDC, sa akin 60 years na nakatayo. So alam nyo kung napakaraming peste na talaga dyan. And yung other answers, my situationship, patagal na pong, wala pong situationship, pero no relationship, and I plan to last forever. And si John Wick po, ayoko kayo i-spoil. Si Coco Martin, nung bata lang ako dyan, yung peste, noon pa yan talaga. So, yun lang po.
Thank you, candidates, for answering that question. Let's now move on to the next question addressed to first-year batch rep candidates. So you will have 1 minute to answer this question. So the two 1BR positions are the only contested positions in the October 2025 special elections. Why should the first-year students vote for you specifically and not the other candidates? Again, the two 1BR positions are the only contested positions in the October 2025 special elections. Why should the first-year students vote for you specifically and not the other candidates? Let's start with candidate Cruz.
Aww. Well, of course, we respect our fellow candidates' track records, platforms. We know that these are excellent. And honestly, the freshies are not starved for choice. And that's a good thing because that's an indication of a very healthy democracy. But what Pio and I bring to the table are simply two things. We have a long track record of council work here in UP at various levels, not just in local councils, but also in the university student council. And with that, we bring familiarity with UP system and UP processes. So when it comes to registration, we are in many ways CRS veterans. So we have experience fighting for units, and we now understand how the enrollment process works. So with that track record of experience and understanding, we bring something essential to our fellow freshies. Thank you.
Next, let's hear from candidate Tabor.
Echoing what Pia said, we love that there is a wealth of options when it comes to the first year batch rep, and that is indeed a sign of a healthy democracy. However, I believe what I love about UP Law is that it is not just for undergrads, or UP undergrads, but it is for everyone who gets to pass the LAE. And for me and Ashley, we are from different undergrads, and yeah, I believe what we bring with us is our experience in uniting people. Me personally, as the first year batch rep and fourth year batch rep in my undergrad, and also serving on the national level. And I believe it is with these wealth of experiences when it comes to uniting people, we get to see how magical it is in UP Law. That it's like a melting pot of different cultures coming together and studying to become lawyers.
Next, let's hear from candidate Gavino.
It's great to see and it's refreshing that UP elections are finally competitive and that the electorate has choices, but allow me to delineate by highlighting two things. Firstly, I'd like to highlight PNI's GISPOA. We have a lot of plans set in stone to make sure that our batch is able to achieve its fullest potential in its first year. And more than that, lay the proper foundation. But second, when it comes to track record, PNI have been doing this since we were freshy since undergrad. We've served on council several times, we've been through thick and thin, and you, as the electorate, are, well, able to trust the fact that PNI can serve to the best of our abilities, and much like a fine wine, our partnership just keeps getting better over time. But if that hasn't convinced you, honestly, just ask anyone from CSSP and let that speak for itself.
Finally, let's hear from candidate Lumawig.
Can I just say first off that I think the other tandem is excellent and I respect them so much. And I'm meeting them for the first time today, but I hope we get to know each other better after the elections. And I'm sure they know what they're doing. But law school is the great equalizer, and everyone in the electorate is coming from ever more diverse backgrounds. And where diversity is concerned, that's where Ian and I come in, where we bring completely holistic experiences to the table. We have different strengths that fulfill both service and leadership, and service leadership in serving in a student government. So those different strengths, I think, give us more of a dynamic that would be better in responding to the needs of a diverse electorate. Thank you.
Now we move on to our next question, still addressing the first year batch representative candidates. What will you do if you win in this election but your co-tandem does not? How can you ensure that you will be able to work with the winning member of the other tandem in order to serve well the student body? Again, what will you do if you win in this election but your co-tandem does not? How can you ensure that you will be able to work with the winning member of the other tandem in order to serve well the student body? Starting with candidate Lumawig.
If, say, I win and Ian doesn't, and the 2 slots for 1B are filled with me and half of the other tandem, I worked with all our GPOA and all our SPOA in closely with Ian. So I will still be able to bring all our plans, our whole vision to office, and we can still make it a reality, me representing this tandem in office. So we will still bring the spirit of this tandem there, no matter what the results of should the results of this election follow the question. But also, how I can ensure that I can work with one half of the other tandem is, honestly, given our answers to the previous question, I think we all really respect each other, and I can 100% see you having a healthy working relationship with them. Thank you.
Now, let's hear from candidate Gavino.
Should that happen, I think it's no question that you work with whoever you're given with. And I'm glad that the electorate at the first year have 4 great choices for batch rep. But should that happen, let me firstly emphasize that it's a matter of conciliating plans and vision, which is definitely possible, right? I'm sure that we've read and gone through the JSPOAs of all of our candidates, and we know that while there may be some slight differences, they're all serving the greater purpose of ensuring that student services are delivered and that the first year batch students can have the best representation they can have in the LSG. There's no question about that. But I think it's just a matter of finding common ground with the other candidates. Kami ni Ian, taga Marikina kami. Alam namin na binabaha kami, so we can bond over that. As far as I remember, Ashley's also from Polsai. That's it. So, yeah, thank you.
Now, let's hear from candidate Tabor.
Well, first and foremost, when we get to win the elections, I believe it's going to be a matter of setting an alignment meeting and just running down all of our JPOAs, SPOAs, and being able to collaborate, just align our visions and our goals for the batch. And I believe as to how can we ensure, Pia and I, before the filing of the COCs, we already talked about how we can serve the batch better. And we even got to talk how we would be in good terms, knowing that we'd be running in opposing tandems. But at the end of the day, I believe that we all have the best interests of the batch in heart. That we want the batch to be a batch na inclusive, na walang pag-iiwanan, that no one gets left behind. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Now for our next.
Finally, let's hear from candidate Cruz.
So, ayun guys, if hindi pa halata, walang animosity dito. Very clear that we can work with each other. So if you came here looking for a fight between the candidates, it's not going to happen. So sorry. Because we all respect one another and understand that we bring different things to the table. So collaboration is never going to be disregarded. So all plans, they can be aligned. Outcomes, they can be discussed. At the end of the day, the batch chooses who they choose, and what they care about are results, not necessarily the people there, just results. So at the end of the day, collaboration is definitely open. We will make things work because that's ultimately what matters. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Sorry na na-excite lang ako kasi I feel like this next question addressed to all candidates is what the student body wants to know about. Our next question is to all of the candidates, kaninong celebrity breakup ka pinaka-nasaktan at bakit? Again, kaninong celebrity breakup ka pinaka-nasaktan at bakit? So this question, you can answer within 30 seconds. So, nag-iisip na sila. Let's start first with candidate for Public Relations Officer, candidate Giling. Sorry po.
Okay, so, kaninong celebrity? Sorry, hindi tayo hindi Filipino celebrity. Pinanasaktan po ako sa breakup ni Zac Efron at Vanessa Hudgens. Kasi High School Musical po talaga. That's my jam. Yan. Thank you po.
Thank you for that old school answer. We love it. Candidate Giling. Next, let's hear from our candidate for 4th year batch rep, candidate Versailles.
Hi, yung celebrity breakup na pinaka-nasaktan ako was kay Catherine, Bernardo, and Daniel Padilla. Kasi parang almost 10 years sila together. So, yun, walang forever. Except my love for the senior batch. Thank you.
Wag naman sana forever, but we look forward to, hearing from the rest of the candidates. Next, let's hear from our 1st year batch rep, candidate Tabor.
Well, I agree na yung breakup ni Kathniel really took a toll on me. Kasi I grew up watching Got to Believe in Magic. She's dating the gangster. Ang weird, kinikilig talaga ako noon. Tapos biglang nalaman ko, break na sila? Like, nag-post lang sa Instagram, tapos break na sila. I was like, whoa. And it was something na, grabe, masakit sa puso. Thank you.
So far, we have 2 Kathniel stands in the panel, so take note. Next, we have next to answer candidate for 1st year batch rep, candidate Lumawig.
Okay, you have three Kathniel stands in the stand because my answer is also Kathniel, and let me tell y'all, I cried. Full stop. I read her. Okay, the first post was from her, right? And she had her message there. And I called my boyfriend crying. And I'm like, "Will you break up with me now?" And I was so parasocial about it. Like, oh my God, ang sakit-sakit siguro ng pinagdadaanan ni Kath ngayon. Kath, no, parang close kami. So, yeah, thank you.
We love the passion, candidate Lumawig. Now, let's hear from second year batch rep candidate Gapus.
It's technically not a breakup, but like Zayn and One Direction. Like, that was crazy, guys. If you were, like, when that happened, like, the world blew up. Like, it was on fire. But that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Gapus. Now, let's hear from candidate for third year batch rep, candidate Constantino.
I just want to say, it was so painful to hear about Kathniel, but also realizing, ang sakit-sakit din nung kay Zayn at saka One Direction. Pero sa totoo lang, kung saan ako pinaka na heartbreak. Wala na kasi ang Aldam Nation!
Okay, thank you. Thank you, candidate Constantino. Let's now move on to candidate for first year batch rep, candidate Gavino.
Okay, let me point out Sabrina Carpenter and Barry Keegan kasi it was from my favorite music video, yung Please, Please, Please. But there is a silver lining. It gave rise to an amazing album called Band's Best Friend. Stream now.
Thank you, candidate Gavino. Last but not the least, let's hear from candidate Cruz.
Guys, ang akin, we know them, we hate them, yung breakup ni BBM at Sara Duterte. Nasaktan ako, nasasaktan yung taong bayan kasi we are forced to watch this political mess happening all around. And it happens, it affects us, it's brought out the flood control issues, lahat ay nasasaktan. Pero guys, may silver lining din yun, ika nga ni Pio Gavino. Yung silver lining is we will have a stronger opposition in the upcoming elections.
And now let's move on to our next question. Addressed to fraternity-affiliated candidates, specifically candidates Constantino and candidate Tabor. The question goes, what is your opinion on frat-related violence? And how will you ensure that no such violence will happen in the College of Law? Again, what is your opinion on frat-related violence? And how will you ensure that no such violence will happen in the College of Law? Let's start with candidate Constantino.
So, I am a member of the UP Alpha Phi Beta fraternity. And to answer the question, simply, there is no place for frat-related violence and any form of violence in the UP College of Law. And how will I ensure that this doesn't reach the College of Law? First and foremost, we establish the proper systems of accountability and security in the UP College of Law. We recognize that there are also systems in place to investigate such frat-related violence. And of course, we will work closely together with the administration in order to ensure that we, as a affiliate member, are able to actually ensure that all of us are held properly to the standards of the conduct that is required of a member of the UP Law community. Thank you.
And now let's hear from candidate Tabor.
I am affiliated with the UP Sigma Rho fraternity, and I vehemently disavow all and any kinds of frat-related violence or any kind of violence inside and outside the university. I believe that there is no place for any kind of violence within the university. But yeah, it's a matter of really the mandate of the first year batch rep is to be the voice of the batch. And I believe that the voice and the concerns of the batch come first. And when it comes to frat-related issues and violence, since there is no place for that, we will ensure that there will be proper communications between the batch, as well as there will be the proper delivery of justice and the assurance of accountability for all parties involved. Thank you.
Thank you to our candidates for answering that question. We now move on to our next question addressed to third-year batch rep candidate Constantino. You are currently the president and representative of your block. How can you ensure that you will be able to manage your obligations to your block and to the batch you are seeking to serve? Again, you are currently the president and representative of your block. How can you ensure that you will be able to manage your obligations to your block and to the batch you are seeking to serve? You may now answer.
So that's a question that I've pondered on before I even actually ran for the position. And my answer to that is actually to relinquish the position of block president. Why? I believe first and foremost that the batch representative is needing representation that is fair and equitable to all members of the batch. And of course, as a block president, your obligation in that situation is to actually look out for the interests of your batch first. And how will you ensure fair and equal representation for all members of the batch? And of course, any block requires that it has a leader that is able to constantly give them the service that is necessary to take care of them, to look out for them and their concerns. And I don't want my blockmates to be left behind. And I know that they're very capable of choosing a leader and working together as we have these past years. So the answer is I will give up my position and give it to someone who will definitely serve just as I have for the block. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on to the next question, I'd like to inform everyone that the drop box by the registration booth is now closed. Now we move on to our next question, addressing all the candidates. Kung ka-birthday mo si Cara David, ano yung birthday wish mo? Let's start with candidate Cruz.
Ang birthday wish ko po ay sana mangyari yung birthday wish ni Cara David. Kasi tama nga siya. Lahat ng nangurakot. Our block went to EDSA to protest the vehement and all-around corruption happening blatantly before us. Kaya dapat lang matupad yung birthday wish ni Cara David. Thank you.
Next, candidate Gavino.
In the same context, si Vice Ganda delivered a very fiery speech criticizing yung mga people that need to be held accountable. So I shared the same birthday wish with Pia in emphasizing that public office is a public trust and that those who steal from the people need to be held accountable.
Next, let's hear it from candidate Lumawig.
Okay, I guess magkaka-birthday kami ni Pia at Pio. Because I was also at EDSA listening to that exact Vice Ganda speech, resonating so hard and shaking my fist, literally cheering on the idea of Cara David's birthday wish coming true. Thank you.
Next, let's hear it from candidate Tabor.
Kung ka-birthday ko si Cara David, I would add an amendment to her birthday wish. I believe na, the corrupt people parang would get off too easily. I think kailangan mabalik muna nila yung ninakaw nila bago sila ma-end. I believe that would be better. Thank you.
Next, let's hear it from candidate Gapus.
I think my first wish, sana wag ka lang siyang ka-birthday kasi parang nakaskill naman ng Thunder kung ka-birthday mo si Cara David. But aside from that, relating to the sentiments earlier shared, my birthday wish would matupad yung birthday wish niya and for us to finally have good governance, for us to have a Philippines that, is, to have a Philippines that is.
Next, let's go to candidate Verceles.
Hi, so magka-birthday kami lahat ng candidates. If I had ka-birthday ko si Cara David, I would also wish for her birthday wish to come true and that for all public officials to be held accountable for their action betraying the public trust. Thank you.
Next, let's hear it from candidate Constantino.
Fellow candidates, happy birthday. Magkaka-birthday pala tayo lahat. But to answer the question, I would grant also the same wish. I would ask for the same wish as Cara David has, is to get rid of all the corrupt people in government. But I want to take it one step further by also wishing that we actually get a better system that uplifts the Filipino people in order to participate in our system of governance and ensure effective delivery of services so that corruption need not happen in the first place. Thank you.
And finally, let's hear it from candidate Giling.
Sa akin, sana magkatotoo talaga yung wish niya. Mabalik lahat ng ninakaw ng mga kurakot at mapalitan po ang ating mga kurakot ng mga opisyalis. And in that sense, sana umunlad tayo at mas marami po yung magkakaroon ng masayang birthday sa atin at magkaroon ng gantong wish at matigil, maubos talaga sila lahat. Ayun. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you to our candidates for answering that question. We move on to a question for our candidate for fourth year batch rep. The question goes, how will you aid the incumbent fourth year batch rep and balance it together with your bar review and academic load as a senior of the college? Again, how will you aid the incumbent fourth year batch rep and balance it together with your bar review and academic load as a senior of the college? You may now answer.
Hi, thank you for the question. So I do believe with regards to balancing workload, as long as you have good time management, everything is workable. In my experience also, this isn't new to me. I've had a lot of experience balancing my academics and my extracurricular activities, such as when I was the vice president of my org in undergrad, and also when I was BOC Sequel head for this year. For last 2024. Likewise, with regards to my platform of participation, we will establish senior committees for us to have a more collaborative environment and to delegate tasks for it to be easier for me to handle. Thank you.
And now we move on to our next question, specifically for our candidate for the position of Public Relations Officer. Given that the LSG was able to consistently upload publicity materials without a PRO, what more can you bring to the position if you were elected? Again, given that the LSG was able to consistently upload publicity materials without a PRO, what more can you bring to the position if you were elected? You may now answer the question.
Again po, I would like to reiterate that I believe that the job of the PRO isn't just about making announcements or making pubs. It's about listening sincerely and making sure that every voice is heard, students' voice is heard and valued. That's how we build the student government. That's how we build the community, built on trust and transparency. Magkakaroon po tayo ng mga transparency reports, accomplishment reports, mga ating mga LSD officers, at papagandahin po natin ang mga pubs at bubuhayin po natin ang ating bulletin board para hindi na po siya medyo malikabok ngayon. And bubuhayin natin siya. Thank you po.
Thank you, candidate for PRO. Now for our next question to all candidates. We know you will use your voice to serve the batch, but will you use it to save the honeymoon? Our next question is, kayo kakakampi sa Huntrix o sa Sadja Boys? Bakit? Again, kayo kakakampi sa Huntrix o sa Sadja Boys? Let's begin with candidate for first year batch rep, candidate Lumawig.
Kakampi ako sa Huntrix. Okay, I don't watch K-pop Demon Hunters. I chose Huntrix because it doesn't have the word boys in it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Next, let's move on to candidate for second year batch rep, candidate Gapus.
Hello. So, kakampi ako sa Huntrix kasi they're in line with my platforms, which is to amplify student voices. And so, together we will go up, up, up with our voices. Together, together we're glowing. Thank you.
Sample naman dyan, candidate Gapus. Okay na. Let's move on to our next candidate. Candidate for first year batch rep, candidate Gabino.
Okay, definitely Huntrix. I know Soda Pop is really catchy, but in line with the fact that we're running for first year batch rep, we want to see the same thing happen to our batch, which is, it's gonna be golden.
Wow, okay. Let's move on to our candidate for third year batch rep, candidate Constantino.
I want to be part of actually Huntrix, simply because I believe that coming to terms with the complicated past of who you are is essentially how you'll be able to do your service better.
Thank you for that very profound answer. Let's move on to our next candidate. Candidate for fourth year batch rep, candidate Briseles.
Hi, I would side with Huntrix because their goal is to seal the honeymoon and protect the people. And that is similar to my platform of support, and that we should be there to help the senior batch. Thank you.
Let's now move on to candidate for first year batch representative, candidate Tabor.
I would go with Saja Boys kasi tinuruan nila na kumanta at sumayaw yung 4-year-old kong bunso na kapatid. Na like, I love how she does soda pop. Kasi gumagano'n siya. And I think aligned with what we want our vision for the batch to be is we want everyone to grow and be comfortable with the spaces that we provide them with na bawat isa kasama. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, let's hear from our candidate for Public Relations Officer, candidate Giling.
Honestly po, hindi ko talaga ito napanood. Pero listening to yung pagkanta po na ating mga batch representatives, I think I would like to side sa Huntrix kasi yun yung pinaka-catchy for me na mga kanta. Yun lang naman po.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer, candidate Giling. Last but not the least, let's hear from candidate Cruz.
Ayun, ako ay naniniwala na ika nga ng Huntrix, our batch should be shining like we ought to be. And a big part of that is to ace law school by locking in on our academics, prioritizing our communication, and ensuring our batch remains engaged. Yes, thank you.
Thank you to all our candidates for answering that question. And now we move on to our last question from the online question form. And that is, with the ongoing issue on the corruption of contractors and government officials on the flood control projects, how can you take a stand as a law student? Again, with the ongoing issue on the corruption of contractors and government officials on the flood control projects, how can you take a stand as a law student? Beginning with candidate Cruz.
So to begin, it's important that we are first aware of what's happening. And that's why it's important that we institute our project, the News Bulletin, to keep all our students updated, which is a harder task, especially for law students, because as tempting as it is to get lost in your codals, lost in your cases, ika nga ni Justice Malcolm, the law does not exist in a vacuum. We are part of a broader society, which is why, in line with the last part of our GISPOA, it's important that we as a batch remain engaged. So taking what we know from the law and taking what we know is going on in our country, we should be able to meet and connect these in order for us to remain engaged. And a big part of that is being a part of mobilization. Sometimes your studies can wait. There's a nation out there waiting for you. Thank you.
Now let's hear from candidate Giling.
For me, all of this stems from really just dishonesty. And tying this to the very first question, I'll do this as a law student by ensuring that I'm honest with my work, I'm honest with my studies, and also, as part of the movement, let's join the mobilizations to fight corruption. And I think we can do this all, and kaya naman natin kaya naman natin at makikita natin sa ginawa natin nung Sunday. Lahat naman tayo ay nag-alsa at lumaban laban sa korupsyon. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat.
Next, let's hear it from candidate Tabor.
Well, first and foremost, we avoid corruption in what we do right now. As law students, we should maintain academic integrity. But I believe that it is also important to make our voices be heard. I agree na we should attend, we should go to mobilizations, and we love what the LSG provided us with as freshies, that they were able to really mobilize our batch. And that's what we want to accomplish as well with our batch council, that our batch's voices gets to be amplified. And with all the fake news saying na sayang lang ginagawa nyo, na walang patutunguhan yan, it's very easy to feel like you're isolated. But I believe with a batch na bawat isa kasama, we will feel that a united batch will make a difference when it comes to national issues. Thank you.
Now let's hear it from candidate Gapus.
I think the UPLSG has been doing the good work and has been consistently showing that it's not afraid to stand for what is right. Recent mobilizations such as the walkout and its presence at Luneta Park, as well as its additional services of providing mobilization, also infographics to inform students of their rights in order to protect themselves during these mobilizations. These are things that we already have, and I feel like students should continue to join and should always join because This is really how we can take a stand as law students. Aside from that, I think that using our voice, sharing your opinion through platforms. I know some of my close friends in UP Law. They use their platforms to often share their stances, and I think that just being able to continue to do so, join the initiatives we have, make use of your voice. That's how we can take a stand. Thank you.
Next, let's hear it from candidate Lumawig.
That this issue is coming to light now, exposing the corruption. This is our greatest chance to take a stand. Last Sunday, the LSG provided every opportunity, took care of all the logistics, took care of all the proliferation of information on the UP contingent going to the protests. And that's how you show up. Get out there, stand up, be with the people, go out onto the streets. That's how you take a stand. And specifically, for us as first-year law students, first-year batch representative candidates, our batch parties for a cause program was initially derived from the idea of how can we help the flood control victims? What can we possibly do to integrate that issue, that problem into our JPOAs now? And our original plan for a cause for the batch parties was to help.
Unfortunately, your time has run out. Next, let's hear it from candidate Verceles.
Hi, so as a law student, I believe that we should take a stand, first and foremost, by being informed, and second, by joining mobilizations and other opportunities for our voices to be heard. So this is something that I wanted to implement, particularly in my platform of engagement, in which I would like to continue the senior batch's active participation in these national issues through disseminating opportunities for educational discussions, primaries, and mobilizations. Thank you.
Next, let's hear it from candidate Gavino.
I say we should be critical and remain critical. Firstly, for the longest time, a lot of people thought that student activism in UP was dying. In the past week, we've proven the opposite, and that's something we should continue to do. We should continue to engage. Join in these mobilizations, show what it means to be an scholar ng bayan. And second, as law students, let me emphasize that the future is in our hands. These malicious people, they couldn't have got away with stealing billions without having their own lawyers. In the future, we ought to take a stand. We ought to strive to make the difference. The law is a powerful tool, and as future lawyers, we need to instill in our hearts that we are the ethical difference that will make sure that this country isn't plunged into any more darkness.
And lastly, let's hear it from candidate Constantino.
To take a stand as a law student, you have to inform but also be informed. You have to understand but also help others understand. And you have to educate but also be educated. And I think that ties into my platform of constant and matinong pag-aaral, wherein hopefully we get to have lecture sessions and study halls that actively discuss and integrate these corruption issues into the knowledge of our constituents, specifically the third year batch. And hopefully, you do take the active stand as what the LSG has been able to do through our walkout and our rally last Sunday by sharing your voice. And I hope I get to integrate that also through my platform of constant and matinong pag-aruga by getting the third years to actually share their opinions in the community chat that we should have and be able to amplify that voice. Take that stand, take that educated stand, and go into the streets as we did before and will continue to do as members of the UP Law community. Thank you.
Now that concludes the Q&A round for the LSG candidates. Again, we will still have the live Q&A round later for questions from the audience and from the Dropbox. Thank you to all our candidates. You may now temporarily step down from the stage. Everyone, we will now go on a 10-minute break before
settle down. Okay, once again, welcome back to our 2025 special election convocations. At this point, we will now be having the live Q&A round for our candidates. So for this portion, the committee will first give the floor to the media representatives that are present here. Afterwards, they will be followed by live questions. So anyone from the audience can ask a question, given that you get your question approved first. So how do you get your question approved? Please proceed here to the left side of the stage, and please approach the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. She's right here. Kaway po kayo. Ayan. Ayan. So she's over here. So if you want to ask a live question, please go here first before proceeding to the microphone. Then after that, we will be asking questions, anonymous questions from the Dropbox. So again, the order goes, we will first entertain questions from our media representatives, then we will have live questions, then finally we will have questions from the Dropbox. So with that, we can now move on to the questions from our media representative, starting with MK Gerbas, the representative from the Philippine Collegian, to give their questions to the candidates. Let's just wait for a bit while we're working through technical difficulties. Again, if any of the live audience has any questions that they want to ask, they may approach here at the left side of the stage. Please approach the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Now let's move on to the question from our Philippine Collegian representative.
Ayun po. So, good evening po to everyone, especially to the candidates. This is addressed, of course, to all candidates. If you are to be elected in your respective positions, how can you manage to mas ma-engage pa, kumbaga, yung inyong constituents with the greater UP community? Yun lang po.
Sorry, can you repeat the question and to who it is directed to?
Okay po. So again, the question is directed to all the candidates. If you are to be elected to your respective positions, how will you manage to engage, may engage pa ang inyong constituents to the greater UP community?
So let's follow the order observed in the opening spiel. So we'll start with the first year batch rep, second year, third year, fourth year batch rep, then the PRO candidate. Let's start with first year batch rep, candidate Cruz.
Thank you for that. So, number one, it should be very clear na part of our dispo nga is engagement, because we recognize that while it's tempting for law students to just exist in law school and get lost in cases and codals, that's not the mark of a true UP law student. Because it's our duty as UP students to go beyond and engage with not just the community, but with the nation. So with that, one of our concrete plans is to engage with a news bulletin in our batch telegram. And Kule, malaki yung papel nyo dito. Intended. So ayun, lahat ng news regarding the university, nation, and the world, dyan papasok na yung news bulletin para informed yung lahat ng law students. And with that, hindi natatapos sa information. Tuloy-tuloy na yan sa engagement, which involves being part of mobilizations, engaging in advocacy work, and these can all be channeled through our batch telegram. Thank you.
Before we move on to the next candidate, for the people tuned in through our YouTube live stream, you can ask a question in the chat box, so you can just send in your questions there, and we will do our best to accommodate them. Let's now move on to our next candidate for first year batch rep, Gavino.
It's true that UP Law students are busy with our readings, our quizzes, and the sheer weight of our academic load, especially given the highest standards here in the College of Law. But what the LSG can do, and if elected, what we strive to do, Pia and I, is to remove as many obstacles from the participation of law students in engagements with the greater UP community. What does this mean? It means, firstly, we have to be able to display competence and performance in our duties as members of the LSG. In doing so, we can ensure that students can be, in our own little way, a little worry-free. And they can choose to engage in their own way as a scholar ng bayan. This can be seen in joining rallies and mobilizations, greater input on the stances of the UP community, and ensuring that UP law doesn't exist in a vacuum. In fact, it has one of the greatest mandates to ensure that the laws of our land serve the people.
Let's now hear from candidate Lumawig.
So, our job when we're elected is to perform our duties effectively. And when we perform our duties effectively, which is the goal to remove all the external miscellaneous worries that our constituents would have to think about, stuff like where do I get my information from? How do I take care of registration? How do I get my complete units? These are things that will be working in the background already available for them. So with that out of the way, they can have more energy to spend on engaging with other things, extracurriculars, and not the least of which is what the UP community, the greater UP community has to offer. So for example, involving the College of Law with the campus-wide mobilizations, connecting the UP Law contingent to the UP contingent as a whole, and connecting our platform for batch parties for a cause with the community causes of the University of the Philippines.
Next, let's hear from candidate Tabor.
I believe dito pupasok yung platform namin kasama ka sa Malcolm. We're in number one, where we want to really push the mandate of the first year batch rep through the batch council, wherein every block in our batch has a voice. And once we get to really implement that, we have that going, we have that communication, open communication between blocks going on, that's when we can finally mobilize our batch for the Freshie Fair, wherein we would want to open our batch, Malcolm in general, to the greater UP community, wherein they will also see how it's like to be in Malcolm. Thank you.
Let's move on and hear an answer from our candidate for second year batch representative, candidate Gapus.
I think the best way to help our constituents or my batchmates engage with the greater UP Law community is by bringing existing opportunities to the forefront. So it's first important that they know of these engagement opportunities, and they are there, and they're endless, from the advocacy work such as mobilizations or even leisurely things such as deal games. I think first and foremost, being able to have batchmates be aware that they can join these things is one sure way of ensuring that they connect to the greater UP Law community. Thank you.
Next, let's hear for candidate for third year batch representative, candidate Constantino.
So the constituents will not be able to fully participate in these projects if they are not informed of it. And that comes in where my platform of Constant at Patinong Pagkaruga, where hopefully in the communication channels we set up, we are able to actually relay the opportunities from the university to the constituents. And that's why I also want to insert our platform, or my platform, of having an opportunities database, wherein the UP Law community, the third year batch, will be able to know actually of what other offices are offering roles in the UP community that may give them work, give them opportunity to contribute. And apart from that, it's also to go to my platform of Constant at Patinong Samahan, where I'm able to invite the UP Law community directly to partake also in the other activities that are recreational, such as the Great UP Run and other more activities that are not just academics. So that's all. Thank you.
Up next is candidate for fourth year batch rep, candidate Vercelis.
Hi, thank you for the question. So this was something that I particularly wanted to implement in my platform of engagement, which includes dissemination of opportunities for educational discussions, primers, and mobilizations. So these will include issues that also affect the UP community as a whole, similar to how the recent Black Friday protests were shared and how the UP Law community had actively participated in them. Thank you.
Last but not the least, let's hear from Public Relations Officer candidate Giling.
So part of my promises actually in my JPOA is to make spaces for voices and through the student pulse. In here, the LSG will ask the constituents regarding their general stances, and these stances will be factored in making the statements, in the information campaigns, and also in implementing projects. I also have a plan to introduce the Citizens Charter or a directory, which may include the NGOs and their donation drives or contact information for donation drives to enable our community to help communities outside UP Law. And also, last is to encourage students to join our student mobilization, and this can be done through information campaigns to inform UP Law of the issues that has been affecting the UP community. Thank you very much, bro.
Thank you to all of our candidates, and thank you to our representative from the Philippine Collegian. At this point, we will now hear the question from the Philippine Law Register to be asked by their representative, Elijah Del Rosario.
Hi, good evening. Elijah, Business Manager, PLR. So I'll be asking 3 questions, pero once lang sasagot. So the first question would be for the candidate for PRO, Mr. Giling. Yeah, so the PLR is also an avenue for information dissemination. How do you plan on helping us do our jobs? And how can we also help you in doing your job?
Okay, so thank you for that question. Again, I'm open for coordination and communication, and very open to that. And in making statements, we can do collaborations on that. We can have committees. We can have our committees to collaborate in doing so, in doing statements, in managing events, or in covering events. Yes, po. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next question will be addressed to all other candidates running for a representative position, except first year. So Ms. Verceles, Mr. Constantino, and Ms. Gapus. So as all of you were voters in the previous LSG general elections that elected our current LSG, sinong bias mo sa current LSG officers and why?
I'll start first since I'm the second year. So I voted for Sam Escueta, who is my blockmate, and masasabi ko siya talaga yung bias ko kasi first and foremost, I was in his campaign team. And second of all, talagang I believe in Sam's advocacies, I believe in his projects, and actually joined his committee. Kaya bias ko talaga siya. So thank you.
So, ang bias ko sa LSG is no other than the third-year batch representative, Jules Judan. Kasi he made us really feel that it's good, Sky Judes. But at the same time, Jules is actually somebody I gotten to know lately, especially with my work as a volunteer under STROSI, which is a committee in LSG. And I got to see also what Judes had in plan when he ran last school year for the third-year batch representative position. And I think that's very important to actually do and have. And apart from that, Judes has also given me the opportunity to consult with him. And I got to hear his plans of how he wants to move forward with the 3BR position. And I think that ties in very well with what I plan, which is, again, constant at matinong pag-aaral, samahan at pag-aruga. Thank you.
Hi, so my bias in the current LSG would be the incumbent batch representative, Mr. Paulo Macasaet. So Paulo is my bias because he's been, single-handedly doing the job of 2 batch representatives. And he's been executing his platforms extremely well. And overall, he leads with great commitment to the senior batch. He's able to do the work effectively. He leads with integrity, and you can really see how much he cares for all of the seniors. Thank you.
All right, so the last question for the prospective first-year batch reps. So recently, the college was put in the spotlight in an online forum regarding accusations that some of your batchmates illegally filmed their classes for social media content, which is prohibited by law and by college regulations. Notwithstanding current college guidelines, what do you think should be the penalty imposed on your erring batchmates? Thank you.
Let's start with let's start with Candid Tabor.
I believe first and foremost, as the mandate of the first batch rep is to be the voice of the batch. And in doing so, it is important to hold the batch accountable as well for its actions. And I believe the penalty for this would be, well, first and foremost, as the batch rep, it would be good to have the conversation with the one who, with the accused, first and foremost, in order to get their side and how we can see, we can objectively decide on this issue. And I believe that since there are mechanisms in the LSG in terms of ensuring that justice is served and that
I'm sorry, Candidate Tabor, your time is up. Let's move on to Candidate Cruz.
I think first things first, we should investigate this because that is not conduct becoming of a law student. And it doesn't matter if they were unaware that this was not allowed because ignorance of the law excuses no one. So in part of the investigation, we will gather facts and understand. But as for penalties, it's not within our purview as batch reps to pass the sentence and serve as judge, jury, and executioner. Rather, I believe that it should be up to the profs who are affected. And thus, it should be up to their discretion how they will deal with the students involved. So ultimately, it boils down to those steps. Investigation, fact-finding, understanding, and from there, all up to the prof's discretion. It's not our job as batch reps to sentence our fellow constituents. Thank you.
Next, let's hear from Candidate Lumawig.
I tend to agree that dispensing penalties is not under our purview, but I do agree that this is a troubling issue. It's an issue at all. Posting any individual who has not consented to being posted, having their face up there, probably even them speaking, as personally having been a victim of this, unconsensually going viral for a video taken in public of me with me fully visible. This was at a rally, no less. It was very troubling, and it's not declarative. This is me personally, what I think should be done is, obviously, first of all, take it down. That's one. Second, the people proliferating media of you without your consent should be held accountable by formal apology. Explain why you thought this.
Candidate Lumawig. Now, let's hear from Candidate Gavino.
Violations of data privacy should never be taken lightly. I think in terms of imposing a penalty, we first have to go through a proper procedure. What does that look like? Firstly, within the college, we can hold a disciplinary hearing as a form of fact-finding to investigate what exactly happened. But second, in terms of actually imposing a penalty, there is precedence for things like this before. Penalties typically range from mere sanctions to suspensions. I can recall on the first day of Consti class that my professor threatened litigation should anyone attempt to record any part of their class. I think it's our responsibility of students to ensure that the privacy of everyone, professors and students included, within the college should be respected. But again, let me reiterate that in terms of suspensions, so once they go through a proper procedure, right, we should ensure that they be restorative in nature, but at the same time impose proper sanctions, again, i.e. suspension and sanctions.
All right. Good answers. Thank you.
Thank you to our representative from the Philippine Law Register. So at this point, we are still accepting questions from our live audience. So again, if you're a live audience in attendance here, you can approach our chairperson of the UP Law Electoral Commission, Alex Guerrero. She's over here, so you can approach over here to make sure that your question may be asked. And also, if you're in the YouTube live stream, you may course your questions through there. But in the meantime, while we are waiting for live questions, we will now proceed to some questions asked through the Dropbox.
This first question is for all batch representatives. The question goes, every year, batch representative candidates include batch bonding initiatives as part of their platform. More often than not, these do not materialize. How would it be different under you? Again, every year, batch representative candidates include batch bonding initiatives as part of their platform. More often than not, these do not materialize. How would it be different under you? Let's start with our candidate for fourth year batch representative, candidate Verceles.
Hello, thank you for that question. So I do have batch bonding activities as part of my platform, and I do intend for it to be different this year. So me and Paula both have batch bonding activities in our platforms, and it's a commitment that we both have and want to achieve. And it will be different this year because we're seniors. We know it's our last year here, and we'd want to celebrate our batch's journey towards graduation and the bar, and we'll do our best to implement these activities. Thank you.
Now let's hear it for our third year batch representative candidate, candidate Constantino.
So this is actually, sorry, hello. So this is actually my platform under Constant at Matinong Samahan, wherein I hope to actually have lunch or dinner with the batchmates, to also have third year first days with the batchmates, and to have recreation fun days with the batch. How is this different? Essentially, the key here is to actually focus on activities that are actually done by the batch, that are actually doable by the batch, and to make them small and distributed enough so that they are able to participate and not commit too much of a time for them that feels difficult for them. Because ultimately, our priorities are academics. And if you're going to try to put a big event, it's actually much more difficult to organize. So by providing quick moments together for lunch, to talk to each other, dinners in UP, going out and hanging out in the LSD room as part of my platform of third year first days, getting to listen to them, to hear from them, and to even do activities like jogging, basketball, or even racket sports. These are great ways to get the batch to bond without having to take too much of an effort out of them.
Next, let's hear it from candidate Gapos.
So under my platforms, I have what I call special interest groups. So essentially, these are interest or hobby-based groups that are established through sensing forms in our batch, where we get to know what the most common or general interests are. So these are things like basketball, climbing, running, bouldering. And I know that these will mobilize because this advocacy was inspired by the fact that my batch actually does mobilize across blocks into small activities like this. And I'm institutionalizing it so that this opportunity can be open to everyone in our batch. So it's not an invite-only type of thing. It's something that you can really go to because the opportunity is right there. And I think it's the strength of this project is that it is a very small-scale thing. Although it does not involve everyone in the batch at the same time, it does meet its goal of ensuring that our batch gets to bond outside of their immediate connections. Thank you.
Next, let's hear it from our candidates for the first year batch representatives. Let's start with candidate Gavino.
This is the exact reason why Pia and I created general and specific plans of action that were very realistic. Because let's face it, there's a great difficulty in trying to organize batch bonding and batch mixers because every block has a different schedule, and let's face it, people are often too tired to hang out if they just read through 200 pages the night before. This is why what we wanted to do as a tandem in this case is to firstly integrate these batch mixers into greater college activities. We can set the example with the planned Malcolm Madness to have first year exclusive activities to ensure that the batch gets to bond in our own ways in this case. Second, that's also why we're starting with small scale batch bonding, i.e. creating interest groups within the batch to ensure that you can find common ground even outside your blockmates. In doing so, we hope to set the stage for even greater degrees of socialization within the batch by starting small, but also integrating our activities within the broader.
Next, let's hear it from candidate Tabor.
I believe this is where our project under the platform Kasama Ka sa Advokasya, Batch Party for a Cause comes into play. Well, we understand that for freshies, most especially, our connections within the College of Law is typically contained within the blocks, and us incentivizing that with the promise that the proceeds of the batch parties will go to specific movements is something to start with. But I also believe that it starts with building rapport with our batch. And it's getting to know each and every one from the batch. Parang, bakit pupunta sa isang gathering na hindi mo naman kilala kahit sino doon? And I believe this is where Ashley and I started, where, well, personally, meron mga maliliit na gatherings, yung mga, kunyari, Block A, na right after their dual horseman classes, no, we'll just go to them and we'll just get to know these people para when we get to mobilize for our projects, mas madaling ma-mobilize.
Sorry, your time is up. Let's move on to our next candidate, Candidate Cruz.
Okay, just to clarify, this question isn't about platforms. It's a question about logistics. And logistics boils down to one thing when it comes to batch bonding. Timing. You do not schedule a block bonding initiative pag ngarag yung lahat ng utaos. Gets ba? So it's important that we find the correct timing with our batchmates. And beyond finding the time, it's important that we institute preparations as early as possible. So as Pio mentioned, these would necessitate interest groups, early preparations, logistics, whatnot. But beyond that, it's even better if the batch reps work together. So this is where it comes in with the Malcolm Madness project of the existing LSG, that we will institute batch bondings beyond year levels. It can be a college-wide initiative. Thank you.
And lastly, let's hear it from candidate Lumawig.
Okay, this is threefold. One, our batch party for a cause is specifically for movements and causes and for charitable reasons. That's what's gonna set it apart because people wanna feel like they're good people, so they're gonna go to a party that's for a good cause. And second, making it inviting by making it simple and fun, and it's not like a big formal event. It's just a party so you can breathe, take a break. That's why timing it right is also going to be essential. So do it before a semester. We'll do it at the end of the first semester. We'll do it before the second semester starts and for a year ender. For this, I'm going to be consulting more with my predecessors on why I actually already have it, and they've informed me that their year-ender plans had fallen through, and I'm going to see more about why and correct it. Also, it's going to be different because I'm going to be helping plan it, and I've planned, executed, and organized batch parties like this before.
Okay, thank you to all of our candidates for answering that question. So again, reminder to everyone in the live audience, if you do have a question, a live question, you may still do so by first approaching the chairperson of the Electoral Commission to first get your question approved. But before that, but while we're waiting for that, we will move on to more of the Dropbox question. And something to note is for all of the people who submitted a question in the Dropbox, so 2 questions that were submitted were deemed improper by the commission as announced under the rules. So thus, these 2 questions will not be asked. Okay, let's move on to our next anonymous question. So since this question is similar to a previous question raised by the representative of the Philippine Law Register, we will just be changing who answered, because initially it was to all for answer. It was to all of the candidates to answer. So instead, only the first year batch rep candidates and the PRO candidate will answer this question. The question is, who's your favorite current LSG member and why? So again, this is directed to those who didn't answer the previous question by the rep of PLR. So this is the 1BR candidates and the PRO candidate. Let's start with the PRO candidate, Candidate Giling.
Hi, so yung favorite ko po na current LSB member is President Carla Coruña, because under her position as secretary, doon po ako natuto kung ano po yung LSG. Doon ko po nalaman na marami pong natutulong ang LSG sa estudyante, and under the Basic Services Committee, doon ko po na feel na marami akong magagawa or marami akong may tutulong sa LSG once I become PRO. Maraming salamat po.
Next, let's move on to candidate Cruz.
Very simple. Same actually tayo ng bias. Shout out Madam President Kyla Carunya. Because in many ways, I've gotten familiar with her work outside of LSG because we are both alumni from the Department of Philosophy across the street, but also former org mates from UP Capitas. Shout out Capitas. So in many ways, beyond her work ethic, Kyla is an example of working with grace under pressure. So no matter what comes her way, she's always cool-headed and is always ready to address any concerns. So if anything, I believe as student leaders, that's something we should imbibe when it comes to our work. Regardless of your position in the LSG, it's all about maintaining a cool head and keeping grace under pressure like Madam President Kyla Coruña. Thank you.
Next, let's hear from candidate Gavino.
Okay, awkward. I have the same answer, President Kai Coruña. In particular, when I volunteered for Bar Ops, I saw her in action along with the rest of the Bar Ops Commission, especially when she was showing members of the faculty around. I think I admire her competence and compassion in serving out in her functions and duties. And fun fact, she has the same alma mater as my ate, and we really connected with that when we were talking about it. So yeah, I believe that President Kai Coruña is my bias.
Next, let's hear from candidate Lumawig.
So I mentioned in the previous question that I consulted with the previous one VR about his term, his plans at the time, what went well, what fell through, so I could see how I could build upon continuity or do better from then. And that one VR was Sam Escueta, who is in the LSG still now, which is a testament to how much his batch trusts him. And you know, when I asked him for advice and when I was consulting on him, it was just really, really helpful. Like, he did not make me feel at all like it was difficult to approach him for help about this. Like, it's not even his problem anymore to, like, deal with the new batch of freshmen. But he was so willing to help, and everything he gave me was so concrete and tangible and, like, really, really insightful. So he's so my bias. He's also so soft and sweet.
Finally, let's hear from candidate Tabor.
I would also say that my bias is EVP Sam Escueta, because in forming our platforms, before we even got to that forming stage, we wanted to consult with our predecessors, one being Sam Escueta. And he did indeed tell us, ano ba yung mga nangyari nung term ko? Ano ba yung mga hindi ko nagawa? Ano ba yung mga na pinpoint kong concerns na batch? And it was integral in how we got to build up our GPOAs and SPOAs. And also, grabe yung dedication when it comes to serving the LSG, that he right now serves also as the USC rep, I believe. It's something na I want to, siguro his discipline in serving while studying is something I want to emulate as well. Thank you.
Now we'll move on to our next question, which is similar to a question raised earlier. However, this time it is more of a twofold question, specifically for candidate Tabor. As a member of a fraternity, what is your stance on fraternity-related violence, and how do you think your affiliation would affect your leadership? Again, as a member of a fraternity, what is your stance on fraternity-related violence, and how do you think your affiliation would affect your leadership? You may now answer.
Thank you for your question. Well, first and foremost, I vehemently disavow any and all kinds of violence, especially frat-related violence, as it has no place inside and outside the university. Based on my track record and credentials, even in undergrad and before getting into the College of Law, I have had the experience in really uniting different kinds of people, whether it be people in the university level and in the national level. And this is something that I wanted to bring into the UP College of Law, wherein kita-kita yung diversity and the magic in that diversity in the batch. And nakakatuwa that there are different cultures that are coming into the batch. And as I believe the mandate of the first year batch rep is to be the voice of that batch. And as someone who would be given that opportunity to really just have that aligning and uniting voice for the batch would be an honor. Thank you.
Okay, our next question is addressed to candidate for first year batch representative Gavino. So the question goes, it has come to the notice of some students that you are actively engaged with certain pro-Israel materials. We'd like to know what your stance is on the issue.
Okay, firstly, I am not pro-Israel, and any allegations of interaction with pro-Israel materials is obviously false. As someone who has studied pol-sci for the past 4 years, political ideologies even longer, that's quite a statement to make. We have to recognize that first and foremost, in my study of pol-sci, it has come to our attention that yes, we have to be sensitive of the way we frame our arguments. We have to be sensitive of the way we construct our arguments, especially when it comes to sensitive matters like the Israel-Palestine issue, especially given the fact that genocide is happening there, and it's clearly unjustified for Israel to be bombing other states, committing genocide every day, and not to mention that trying to distill this issue as an us versus them only alienates the other side. There is a right and there is a wrong, and obviously Israel is in the wrong.
Thank you for answering that question. Now, we will be raising another question for candidate Tabor. Your opponents for 1BR are both entrenched in UP politics. Do you think being in another school in undergrad will hinder your ability to be able to spot issues? Again, your opponents for 1BR are both entrenched in UP politics. Do you think being in another school in undergrad will hinder your ability to be able to spot issues?
Thank you for your question. Well, I believe that's the beauty in the UP College of Law, that it is not exclusively for just one school. It's for everyone who had the opportunity to pass the LAE. And, having that diversity coming into law school, into the UP College of Law, is something beautiful. And I believe that's what Ashley and I are running on. The fact that we are both not from UP undergrad, but at the same time, we carry that passion to serve, as well as the fresh insights that we carry, that we have had from the past 4 years in our undergrads. And I believe it's in aligning all of these voices wherein we could make our batch na bawat isa kasama at walang mapag-iwanan. Thank you.
Let's now move on to our next anonymous question addressed to 3BR candidate Constantino. So the question is, both you and the current 3BR are from the same fraternity. In the context of the coming Destinations event, how would we know that the choosing of this year's Desti head would be independent and credible? You may now answer.
The simple way is the fact that we might be from the same affiliation, which is the UP Alpha Phi Beta fraternity, but we recognize the inherent capability and greatness of our own constituents. I believe that 3BR Giordano's already selected a member who's not even a leader of the Destinations Project that is not part of the UP Alpha Phi Beta fraternity. And I believe that's the very right way to go. You look at the very strength of who your constituents are, how they serve, because the project is meant for the greater UP law community. So there is no need to use internal influence, internal considerations, because there is none to be made. Our consideration is who our constituents are, who we want to serve, and who among of our constituents are best capable of leading Destinations to its success next semester. Thank you.
And for our last question from the Dropbox, we have a question for candidates Tabor and Constantino. During the GA, where the LSG debated on the Dean's endorsement, Two fraternities, including yours, visibly forwarded their interest through their affiliated LSG officers. How can we ensure that you will not be a vehicle for your frat's interests when a similar situation arises? Again, during the GA, where the LSG debated on the dean's endorsement, two fraternities, including yours, visibly forwarded their interests through their affiliated LSG officers. How can we ensure that you will not be a vehicle for your frat's interests when a similar situation arises? Let's start with candidate Tabor.
Well, first and foremost, as to the dean's endorsement, the facts are there that I believe most. I think it was a 4 out of 5 vote in in favor of Dean Gwen, and I believe it was because these LSG members fulfilled their mandate to become the voice of their constituents, and I believe I would also, once elected, I would also want to fulfill that same mandate, to be the voice of the batch, and to be the one who raises the concerns from the grassroots level into the LSG. Thank you.
So, to make things clear, and if I recall seeing in the minutes of the GA, and I attended the GA, all the members of my fraternity who are also part of the SG all voted to endorse Dean GDV. And I think that's because we recognize the mandate of our people and the representation that we've made for our people, that we are there as their servants. They are our constituents and we listen to their voice, and we want to uplift that voice. And should I be elected to the position of 3BR, that is the same intention that I bring to this table, that I am here for the interest of my batch, for the cares and needs of our batch, and for what my batch stands for. And I will echo that voice and represent that voice in the law student government. Thank you.
Okay, now we have a live question from our YouTube live stream. And after consideration and after deliberation by the commission, it has been deemed that this question is sufficiently relevant under the rules and as announced. So the question is directed to 1BR candidates Cruz and Tabor. The question goes, how can you act on your platforms of unity when there is the glaring fact that you are blockmates, yet you could not even unite to run as a tandem? This is asked by lives by Michael in the YouTube live stream. So we can start first with candidate Cruz.
What an interesting question. I mean, obviously we can work together. I mean, it was our own personal choice to run with whoever we wanted to. And that's fine. That doesn't at all affect any harmony within our block. Our block is generally fine. Shout out Block H. Ayun, so just because we're not running together doesn't mean that we are united in our shared goal to represent the batch. So at the end of the day, it's not a matter of tandem this, tandem that. No. At the end of the day, what matters is who serve the batch best. That's all there is to it. Thank you.
Now let's hear from candidate Tabor.
I would like to agree with Mrs. Cruz's answer. As we said earlier that I believe it was a week prior to the filing of COCs, we had lunch. We talked about our experiences and how we were at the block. And of course, it went down as well as to the LSG elections. And it was a very, it was a nice talk. It was civil lunch wherein we talked about how our different ideas in serving the batch. And yeah, we might be running in different tandems, but at the same time, we both want the best interests of the batch at heart. And I believe it reflects in the projects and the platforms that we have shown to our batch. Thank you.
That concludes our live question and answer round. Thank you to everyone who engaged with our candidates.
Now at this point, to close the event, the LSG candidates will be given an opportunity for their closing spiel, for which they each have 1 minute to deliver. So you can deliver your closing spiel on stage on your seats, so no need to stand up. We will follow the order of the opening spiel, starting first with candidate for first year batch rep, candidate Cruz.
Hey, freshies. It's 9:30 in the evening, so let's slow things down. The last month has been a challenge for all of us, and we've got a long journey ahead. That's why, as your batch reps, Pio and I intend to establish that presence and stability. And we can only do that with your trust. So at the end of the day, let's lock in on our academics, let's establish proper communication channels, and ensure that our batch remains engaged, not just for this year, but for the rest of the years to come. So in line with that, now 1L, let's ace law school with Pia Cruz and Pio Gavino. Thank you.
Now, candidate Gavino.
Good evening, everyone. So it's Pio again from 1G, and allow me to emphasize that voting lines open next week from October 1 to 3, and I hope you exercise your right to suffrage in choosing your candidates. But allow me to emphasize and end on this note, and that PNI's brand of leadership is as much as possible learning from each other. If elected, and we hope that happens, what we'd want to emphasize is that we won't see anyone as having been placed in a hierarchy. We want to make sure that our brand of leadership is one that reflects treating every one of our constituents as equals. As that we emphasize that we believe this is going to be a relationship where we learn from each other. And in doing so, make sure that our batch not merely survives, but also thrives. And that we emphasize that we can only do that in the form of your trust through your vote. Once more, I'm Pio Gavino, and this is Pio Cruz, and we're here to help you ace law school.
Next, let's hear it from candidate Lumawig.
Hello, thank you everyone. To Elecom, I was genuinely looking forward to having a public forum like this, so thank you for organizing it. And thank you for allowing me to vie for a chance to represent you, batchmates. Thank you for hearing me out. And I want to thank all the candidates here right now also, because we're all putting ourselves out on the line, putting ourselves up for the kind of public scrutiny that elections demand. So congratulations to all of us. And with that, to close, I just want to reiterate the reason I'm running. I'm running for my batchmates. I'm not running for a title, I'm not running for a position. I'm running to make things easier for us in this giant adjustment of freshman year in law school. Because I know I would want someone to step up for me. So I want to be the person that steps up for you. So this is me stepping up para may kasama ka. Para may kasama ka sa Malcolm, may kasama ka sa academics, may kasama ka sa advokasya.
Next, let's move on to candidate Tabor.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. First and foremost, thank you, Elecom, for conducting a very successful special elections. Thank you to our campaign team, headed by Maya. Grabe, up until now, nandito pa rin kayo. And of course, freshies, maraming salamat sa pakikinig at pagbibigay ng opportunity for us to actually talk what we stand for, talk what we want to do, and talk how we can better serve the batch. And of course, what I want to reiterate as well is this is our chance to have our voice in the LSG. And I hope that come election day, October 1 to 3, we get to exercise our right to suffrage. And yeah, kita-kits, kasi niniwala kami na sa bawat hamon at tagumpay, dapat may kasama ka. Thank you.
Next, let's hear it for our candidate for second-year batch representative, candidate Gapus.
Okay, so there's just two things I want my batchmates to know. One, I get nervous really easily, so I'm so sorry, guys. And two, service has always been my advocacy and my passion. And I don't pursue my passions without thought or half-heartedly. My goals to collate, collaborate, and coalesce were formed with careful consultation with our 2BR Elaine Gasico, who has been doing an amazing job, by the way, and also with consultation with as many people from our batch that I could talk to. Hearing your voices and concretizing your initiatives, and concretizing direct initiatives to answer your needs and concerns is the exact brand of refreshing representation that I want to bring to the table. And I would love to continue to develop all of that with you guys. So, thank you.
Next, let's hear it from our candidate for third-year batch representative, candidate Constantino.
So good evening to everyone. I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody for being here tonight, for listening to us, to listening to me, to be able to share with you all my platforms and the opportunity to also let you know who I am, what I stand for, and why I'm here to serve you. And I hope that this opportunity was also for you to hear the kind of service I want to bring to you, which is serbisyong constant at matino kay Constantino. Of course, I want to do this again by constant at matinong pag-aaral, constant at matinong samahan, at constant at matinong pag-aaruga. And thank you also for the opportunity to also be with you in the previous days for RTRs and for the coming days. And I hope to wish you all a safe night and a safe next few days as the storm comes. And I hope you also give me the chance to serve you your hashtag Antoine and Only as your next third-year batch representative. Thank you.
Next, let's hear it from fourth-year batch representative candidate Verceles.
Senior year is our most pivotal year of law school. On one hand, it's almost the end of the long and difficult journey of law school. But on the other, it's also the time wherein we begin to prepare for the upcoming bar examinations. I believe that through the 4 steps of support, transparency, engagement, and participation, lahat tayo sa success this school year through participative student leadership. Once again, I am Nadine Verceles from Block 4 GI, your senior batch representative. Thank you.
And lastly, let's hear it for our candidate for the position of Public Relations Officer, candidate Giling.
So first of all, thank you po to the 60 people here and to those viewers in the YouTube. Maraming salamat po for your time today. And at the heart of my candidacy is a very simple promise, is to make sure that the LSG truly communicates with you, clearly, consistently, and creatively. And I believe that the job of the PRO isn't just about making pubs, making announcements. It's about listening sincerely and making sure that every student's voice is valued. So if you believe in an LSG that not only speaks, but also listens, then I hope you'll join me in making this vision real. So again, I'm Hack Giling, and always remember, Hack has your back. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you to all our candidates for their closing spiels. Now to formally close the event, let's hear from the chairperson of the UP Law Electoral Commission, Alex Daniel Guerrero.
Hello, good evening everyone. So first of all, thank you for staying this late with us. And this convocation, we have always done this so that this is not just a way for the candidates to campaign and let you know about their plans, but this is also for the electorate to form a bond and connection with the candidates. Because in this convocation, we do not just only hear their platforms, we are also here to test their commitments and also their stands. So this convocation at the same time is also a way for us to practice things that are just not, that will not end just because we are in law school. So we are also practicing in here responsible citizenship, participation, and critical thinking, which I think is very important even after we all graduate here. So finally, I would like to thank everyone who attended the convocation, our candidates, our electorate, of course, and also to the UP Law of offices who helped us in organizing this convocation, especially to IPD, OCS, ICTO, and also our maintenance staff. And of course, thank you so much for our administrative group volunteers who helped us in preparing every single bit of this event. So once again, thank you everyone for staying with us. And please remember to exercise your right to vote on October 1 to 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If you were not able to catch the start of the program, this convocation is available on our YouTube channel. For our candidates, please take note that the campaign period will end on September 29, that is a Monday, and that the campaign ban will start on September 30, Tuesday at exactly 12 o'clock a.m. All electronic campaign materials must be inaccessible or taken down by 12 o'clock a.m., while physical campaign materials must be taken down by 12 o'clock p.m. For everybody, the election proper will be on October 1 to 3, 2025. Simply go to halalan.up.edu.ph and sign up using your UP mail to vote. Kindly visit the UP Elecom official Facebook page for more information.
With that, we end our convocation for the special election for the academic year 2025 to 2026. Thank you to our candidates and thank you to everyone who joined us today. This has been Iko Urbano
And Liza Mama,
and we have been
your
hosts
hosts for
this evening. Thank you very much.